Story 1.
Cheating wife returns. Best friend opens the door, leading to explosive revelations and betrayals. Jackson stopped, realizing it was his wife's friend Becky, who everyone called Bex, on the phone. He had returned home from his Saturday golf game feeling sick, with Montezuma's revenge nearly causing an accident on the fourth hole. He decided it was best to stay close to a bathroom for the rest of the day. Peering through the open sliding patio door screen, he spotted his wife and 3 of her friends relaxing by the pool, sipping mimosas. Deanna, his wife, lay on her lounger facing away from the door, with Bex to her right, Steph in front of her, and Cheryl with an S to her left, lying on a towel by the pool. Jackson stayed hidden so he could listen in without being seen. "I'm sorry, Beeks, but it's all I think about. I've imagined it, and I can't stop thinking about how it'll feel inside me." "You all talk about doing it," his wife replied. "Plus, I'll keep it quiet so Jackson won't find out. I won't be like Candace," she added. Candace was known as the most promiscuous friend, who entertained the ladies with her tales of wild closeness. "He'll catch on, they always do. You know what happened to me, and Candace is full of it. I've been divorced for 3 years, and I regret every foolish choice I made because of her. She was my downfall, and she'll be yours too," Beeks responded sadly. Jackson overheard his wife say, "It'll be a one-time thing. I need to find out if a well-endowed man is as amazing as Candace claims." "It's not what you think," Cheryl chimed in. Cheryl had been married about as long as Jackson and Diana had. "Back in college, I hooked up with a guy who was well-endowed. Then I met Bert and realized he could love me better. The well-endowed guy was boring beyond that one aspect. His life was just sports, nothing romantic or interesting." She paused to take a drink. "That was all there was to him." Steph, who's never been married, warned, "I told you when you wanted to hang out with us on girls' night not to fall for any guy you might dance with. They go to clubs looking for closeness, not a dance partner. And now you've started something with this guy. Like it or not, you're seeing him." "I'm not seeing him. We just have drinks, dance, and have fun," Di responded, hesitating. "Until last night. He's been bragging about his size and wanting to sleep with me. I resisted until he showed me, and now I can't stop wanting him," she grinned. "Just thinking about it turns me on." Bakes leaned closer to Deanna with a serious tone. "Listen, Candace isn't living some dream with amazing closeness every night. She's lonely, just like me. I can see you're on the same path. I'd do anything for a guy like Jackson. He's kind, successful in his business, and a great dad." Standing up, she wrapped her towel tighter. "If you let Jackson go, I'll do whatever I can to be with him." Di looked at her friend earnestly. "I need to do this just once, and that's it." Beeks replied with a sad look. "It's never just once. I've been there, I know." Jackson's stomach troubles were forgotten as he listened intently to the conversation. Anger surged through him. His wife, his partner for over 2 decades, was planning to sleep with some guy she met at a club. That's absurd, he thought. In a burst of fury, he forcefully pushed the screen door off its rail as he stomped over to the poolside. Di felt a strong grip on her arm, pulling her up abruptly. She turned to see her husband's enraged face, visible to all the women. With a swift motion, he yanked her wedding and engagement rings off her left hand. "My rings!" she exclaimed. "There. You're not my wife anymore, so go be with your lover tonight." His rage boiled over as he flung the rings over the roof toward the street. "Go to your big tool boyfriend." Trembling with anger, he continued, "I heard everything. I knew you weren't being faithful on girls' night. But I can't believe you have a serious relationship with some loser you met at a bar." Di collapsed to the ground in tears. Steph was the first to stand, attempting to calm Jackson. "Take it easy, Jax. Di hasn't really done anything that wrong." "That's nonsense," he retorted. "To heck with all of you. You knew what would happen when you started taking her out with you, especially you, Steph," he pointed accusingly at her. "Since you're all here, you can help this woman pack her things and get out of my house now." Cheryl flashed her manipulative smile. "Come on, you don't mean that." She gently placed her hand on his chest, but suddenly found herself stumbling backward into the pool as Jackson pushed her. "I'm leaving for an hour, and I don't want this woman in my house when I get back. Guess what? Steph has a new roommate." With that, Jackson stormed back into the house, then emerged again through the door. "I heard you, Beeks. I'm excited for our dates, but I won't sleep with you until after the divorce. Are you okay with losing these friendships?" Beeks straightened up. "Absolutely not a problem," she grinned. He seemed like a great catch. She believed she had learned from her past mistakes, although it was too late back then. A week later, Di's wish came true during girls' night on Friday. Beeks observed Di meeting her lover. She recognized him as one of those sleazy guys who prey on married women at clubs. He used to be roommates with the man who had seduced her years ago, a decision she regretted deeply. She knew Dee's life would change drastically tonight, just like hers had. She felt guilty for not trying harder to stop DY, but she knew once DY made up her mind, it was final. Beeks regretted not taking photos of DY's actions sooner. She had been documenting her friend's behavior during girls' nights to hopefully prevent her from making the same mistake. Now it seemed like she was taking these pictures to steal Dai's husband for herself. Maybe she was, she thought. That night, Dai didn't dance with her date. Instead, she glanced at her friends and said she would catch up with them later. With that, she greeted the man, and they left the club together. In his unkempt apartment, Dai felt nervous excitement. This was the first time she had been with another man besides Jackson in over 20 years. As she approached him, her lover noticed her bare fingers. "Put your rings back on. I want to see them on your hand while you're doing it," he demanded. Dai explained, "I can't. Jackson took them when he threw me out last weekend." "Why'd he do that? Are you cheating with someone else?" he questioned. She defended herself. "No, he heard me talking to my friends about wanting you, so he snatched them off and threw me out." Seeing his interest wane, she wondered if Bex was right, that he only liked married women for the thrill. "Don't you want to have closeness?" He hesitated, considering her attractiveness, but the allure was fading. Without a husband, she might cling to him, and he wasn't interested in that. "Here's the deal. I'll give you what you want tonight, my big Johnson, but then you got to go. I don't want a relationship. I do it with married women because I don't want attachments." He wasn't as fit as Jackson, but that didn't matter to her. She knew what she desired. After a while, he pushed her aside and led her to the bed. Without a moment's notice, he pushed his tool as far in as he could. Dai gasped in pain. "How was it? You loved it," he smirked, heading to the bathroom. DY followed, sitting on the toilet while he cleaned up. She felt disappointed. Despite his size, the experience left her unsatisfied, much like her first time. As she headed back to Steph's apartment, she realized it had only been an hour since she left the club with him. If she had been with Jackson, they'd be cuddling after making love. Feeling sad and alone, tears streamed down Dai's cheeks as she took an Uber back to Steph's empty place. Jackson spent the week getting ready for his new life. Some might call him cold, but that's how he handled problems, compartmentalizing them. With a successful business, he could delegate tasks and focus on what mattered. He didn't want revenge in the divorce settlement. Despite over 2 decades together, DI had changed, seeking girl time every week. Sometimes he grew tired of the constant presence of her friends around the pool. While DY was experiencing her big one, Jackson was 2 hours away, having dinner with their son at college. He wanted to tell him about the divorce man-to-man, preempting potential future issues. He knew his son might see things differently. The next day, Saturday, Jackson returned home after lunch with his son. He hoped the visit hadn't affected the boy's grades. Meanwhile, Steph grilled Dai about her night with her lover. Disappointed, Dai admitted it. Wasn't what she expected. After hearing Candace's and Steph's tales, she had hoped for great closeness but ended up sore. Steph insisted she needed the right partner, and she had just the guys in mind. She had dated 2 guys who knew about each other, and she believed she could arrange a double date with them tonight. After dinner and dancing, the 2 couples returned to Steph's apartment. Steph had her choice of the 2 men, and her second pick was more than happy to be with Dee. They fooled around on the sofa, but soon Dai felt disappointed as he continued his clumsy attempts. Was this her future, unfulfilling encounters with men who only cared about their own pleasure? She rolled him off and headed to the bathroom to shower, feeling dirty. In 2 nights, she had been with 2 different men and felt let down by both. As she lathered up under the warm water, she felt a cool breeze and realized someone had joined her in the shower. He grabbed her, but she couldn't push him away due to his size. Desperate, she grabbed a soap dish and smashed it into his head, causing him to slump to the floor. She climbed onto the toilet seat and screamed for Steph. As Diana stood on the toilet seat, waiting for rescue, Jackson was fast asleep on the sofa where he had been since he kicked her out. He could sleep there, but he couldn't bring himself to sleep in their bed, fearing she might have been with other men there. He woke up to a knock at the door, dressed only in boxers and a t-shirt, feeling groggy. If he had looked through the peephole, he might not have opened the door, but he did, and there stood Candace, known as the Queen of Promiscuity. Physically, Candace was stunning, with a petite, great figure. She owned her own fitness franchise specializing in training overweight individuals. However, Jackson always saw her as a beautiful exterior with a rotten core. It was past 1 a.m., and she was dressed in a revealing black dress, flaunting her assets. Jackson frowned at her arrival. "What do you want?" She flashed her smile, a tactic that usually worked. "I thought you might need some company tonight, and I'm here to offer my services." She took hold of it, stroking it while speaking to him. "Very nice, Jax. This will do just fine." Jackson firmly removed Candace's hand, shaking his head. "Not happening. Go home." She adopted a playful expression. "Oh, come on. I heard you and Dee split, so why not have a little fun?" Pushing her back, Jackson shut the door firmly in Candace's face, ignoring her smile as she walked away. The next morning, Jackson did something he hadn't done in 2 decades. He cleaned up and went to church. Though he was Baptist by upbringing, he opted for a nearby non-denominational service. Arriving early, he chose a seat near the back, avoiding inconveniencing others. The sermon touched on letting God guide one to become a better person and help others, stirring something within Jackson. Despite his success, he felt a lack of fulfillment in giving back to others. Perhaps mentoring youth could make a difference, he pondered. Feeling uplifted, he returned home to find Deanna waiting on the front steps, visibly upset. She stood and began shouting at him, demanding to know where he had been and why she couldn't get inside. He calmly responded, "I went to church instead of fooling around." "Maybe you should consider finding a church too. There are plenty of men there, I'm sure." After unlocking the door, he entered, and Di followed. She wasted no time expressing her desire to return home, citing her discomfort with Steph's lifestyle. "No, you can't move back here. I've released you from your vows, which you were going to break anyway if you haven't already." "How was your encounter with the big tool?" Jackson interrupted before Di could finish. "I didn't," Di started, but Jackson cut her off. "Don't lie. I know you too well. I can tell you've been with him since you left." Di remembered when Jackson warned her about going to girls' night with her friends last year. He had made it clear it would lead to infidelity sooner or later. She didn't want to admit he was right. He emphasized that it was wrong for married people to act single, as it could jeopardize his business. As Di tried to hug him, he stopped her. "Tomorrow, I'll have Tracy, my new assistant, send you a list of affordable apartments. You can take the bedroom furniture and anything else you need." Tears streaming down her face, Di pleaded, "I can't survive on my own. You have to help me." Jackson remained resolute. "You didn't have to work. I make enough money, but you insisted on a job, yet you've saved nothing. You spend your entire paycheck immediately. That has to change. As a divorcee, you'll need to manage your finances. Many families live on less than what you earn." He escorted her to her car. "You'll be served on Wednesday at work unless you prefer to visit Abe's office on Tuesday for a quieter serving." DY received the papers at work on Wednesday, still hoping Jackson wouldn't go through with the divorce. She'd been with him for over 2 decades and usually got her way, but she was learning that a Jackson who loves you is different from a Jackson who chooses not to love you. Wednesday night, alcohol flowed at Cheryl's house as the girls gathered to cheer up Di. With too much booze and no food, Candace arrived with more alcohol, unaware of the somber mood. "I didn't know this was a party," she said. As they drank more, tongues loosened, and Candace revealed her intention towards Jackson. The drunken ladies burst into laughter. Cheryl chimed in, "Beeks has dibs on that, ha!" Candace stood up, running her hands down her figure. "Does she think her mommy bod can compete with this?" Confessing her failed attempt to seduce Jackson, Candace remarked, "What were you thinking, Di? Your man's got a nice tool. I grabbed it. No quality when I feel it. Maybe I'll marry Jax. I wouldn't have to work, just keep him satisfied, and I'd live the good life," she smirked. "Or maybe I'll marry him, enjoy him for a bit, then divorce him. You know I can't stay faithful." Diana was starting to grasp the gravity of her actions for the first time. As DY continued drinking, Jackson greeted Beeks and her kids at the front door, holding a casserole dish. "Thought you might need a friend tonight." They dined on the patio, discussing Jackson's feelings since he asked Di to leave. Meanwhile, Beeks's children played basketball in the backyard. "I'm sure you know the others are with her now, helping her cope with being served today. I chose to be here with you instead." "Thank you for being there for me," Jackson expressed his gratitude. Beeks didn't stay long, as her children had school the next day. Before leaving, she gave Jackson a gentle kiss on the lips. He smiled as they parted, a kiss filled with temptation that lingered just the right amount of time. Between 1:30 a.m. and 2 a.m., Jackson was awakened by a drunken call from Diana. She alternated between crying and cursing him, questioning his love for her. To Jackson, it seemed DY didn't love him enough to avoid going out to clubs and engaging in who knows what activities. After her third call, he turned off his ringer, deciding to talk to her once she sobered up. The next day at 11, Jackson dialed her number, but she didn't apologize for the drunken calls from last night. He questioned why she hadn't returned Tracy's call about the apartment she found. Ignoring his question, she expressed her desire to return home. "No. Our marriage is done since you've been with other men. You couldn't even wait until you were served before seeking another guy. I hope it was worth it, a whole week, and you couldn't resist trying out other men. There was a knock at the door and Jackson saw Beeks holding a paper bag. He gestured to wait as he finished the call. Deanna, you wanted other men, so I'm giving you the single life you seem to want. Sign the papers. If you don't meet with Tracy tomorrow, I'll pick an apartment for you. I'll cover the first 2 months' rent, that's it. Got to go. Beeks just brought me lunch. He hung up. By 6 in the evening, Stephanie was fed up with Di's complaints. Girl, you got to face reality. Beeks isn't stealing your man. Let's be real. You wanted that guy's bigger tool, and you got it, but what did Jackson get? He realized he can't give you what you want after 20 years of marriage. Sorry, but no man wants that. The Jackson I know won't take you back. Di didn't want to hear it. But you didn't stop me. Steph gave her a look. Why would I? When you want something, you go for it. That's who you are, and besides, I'm no saint. You messed up, and now you want Jackson to act like it never happened. Be glad he doesn't know everything you've done. Change. Into something better, let's cheer you up. 2 weeks had passed, and DY had experienced disappointment with several new partners. On Monday evening, after work, Bert and Cheryl accompanied DY to the apartment Jackson had arranged for her. He had furnished it with her favorite master bedroom set and items from their home. The place was freshly painted, cleaned, and even the fridge was stocked. Bert, being the good husband, carried Di's clothes inside as Cheryl requested. He hung up the clothes that needed it and opened the plastic tubs containing folded items. Later, he returned with food, and they all spent the evening together to keep Di company on her first night there. Cheryl understood that Di was trying to prolong the divorce, hoping Jackson would miss her terribly and take her back to their ideal life. She kept quiet about Beeks having frequent lunches with Jackson, knowing it would only make things worse for Di. Cheryl proposed a housewarming girls' night at Di's new place on Friday. Beeks picked up the call from Cheryl. Hey, sis, we're having a gathering at DY's new place on Friday. Please join us. I haven't seen you in a while. She hesitated. The kid's dad hasn't been able to take them for the last few months. Keen's been working out of town, so I haven't had much freedom to go out. It was a white lie. She did visit Jackson occasionally, but never stayed long. She was just checking up on him, knowing he wouldn't cross any boundaries. I'll see if I can arrange for someone to watch them on Friday. They're teens, Mama Bear. They can manage on their own. Sure, but I might want my security deposit back someday. They could wreck the place. Jackson enjoyed his lunches with BX. She knew he rarely left his office for lunch, always bringing his own food. That dedication likely contributed to his success. It was the little things like that. Beeks worked just 2 blocks away from Jackson's business. They didn't meet every day, but he appreciated her company. She was actually the only friend of Di's that he genuinely liked. He put up with the others just to keep the peace. During their Thursday lunch, Beeks asked Jackson if he could watch the kids so she could attend DY's housewarming. He agreed without hesitation. Jackson liked spending time with Bex's children, 3 boys aged 13, 15, and 16, who regarded Jackson as a cool uncle. They played basketball together, which helped fill the void left by not playing with his own son. Beeks didn't need to drop off the kids because Jackson picked them up and took them to the batting cages and go kart racing. Taking a deep breath, Beeks knocked on the door. "Come in," came the response from inside. Peeking through the doorway, she saw Cheryl and Steph with raised wine glasses. But before she could step inside, Candace barged past her, announcing, "Hey, ladies!" She was already quite tipsy. As the toilet flushed, DY entered the room. There was an unspoken tension between Bex and Di, one that wouldn't last the evening. As more wine and whiskey shots were consumed, inhibitions faded away. Drunk Cheryl proposed that they all help Di reconcile with Jackson. This stung Beeks deeply. She had genuine feelings for Jackson, not just Jax. Tipsy, Candace chimed in, suggesting that Di couldn't win Jackson back until she slept with him. She claimed that when she touched it, it felt just right in her hands. Not too big, not too small, just perfect. Beeks called out Candace for her crude talk, but Candace shot back, mocking Beeks for her supposed plans to snag Jackson. She insinuated that Beeks, as a single mother, was looking for a new daddy for her kids, and suggested that Jackson, being an empty nester, wouldn't want to raise someone else's children. Beeks knew her friends could be superficial, a fact her ex often pointed out, but hearing Candace talk about Jackson like that was too much. Before Beeks could respond, Di grabbed her hair and yelled at her to stay away from Jackson, accusing her of coming from his office during lunch breaks. Pushed toward the door by Di, Beeks finally spoke her mind to her friends for the first time. She acknowledged that Jackson wasn't Di's anymore. Di had thrown that away by choosing other men over him. Beeks reminded them of the importance of fidelity, calling out Cheryl's casual attitude toward cheating despite her husband's admiration for her. I learned that lesson the hard way. You never experienced having kids because you didn't want to change your body, but that's something you'll never understand. Steph is so superficial and cruel that she'll never find a husband. No man wants a woman like her. And Candace, if every tool that you had could stick out of your body, you'd look like a porcupine. After a moment of silence, BX added, I've been holding back on pursuing Jackson, trying to give him space, but not anymore. I'm going after your husband, Di. Once he's mine, he won't even remember any of you. Finding a good husband is tough, but he'll never regret being with me, I guarantee that. With that, she slammed the door and left. Beeks drove home and sat in her empty apartment for a while. Her boys were with Jackson, and she didn't want to be alone. She decided to call Jackson. He told her to come down as they were scheduled for the batting cages soon. He joked about his sore butt from the go-karts. She found Jackson and her kids at the batting cage. She sat on the benches outside while her older sons played. Jackson was coaching her youngest. She smiled as she watched them bond. Jackson grinned when he noticed her watching. He motioned for her to join them inside. Without saying a word, he handed her a batting helmet. She initially declined, but her kids insisted. Standing with the bat on her shoulder, she swung at the pitches, missing each one. Jackson stepped behind her, adjusting her stance. She felt his presence close. Behind her. He guided her through the next pitch, and to her surprise, she made contact. Not a hit, but not a miss either. With Jackson's support, she felt safe, and her heart raced with anticipation. She never quite managed to hit the baseball right, but it was the most enjoyable time she'd had in years, laughing until tears rolled down her cheeks. She knew this night would always hold a special place in her heart as the moment she realized she loved Jackson. Following Bex's car back to her apartment, Jackson wore a wide grin. Despite her insistence that he didn't need to follow them home, he was happy to help wrangle her boys and their belongings into the apartment. The next morning, he casually asked if she'd like to grab breakfast together, and she eagerly agreed. On his way back home, Jackson got a text from Bert informing him that the girls had ended up in the drunk tank after causing traffic trouble while clubbing. He decided they needed a lesson and opted not to bail them out. Especially if Diana was driving with a DUI, their insurance rates would skyrocket. Over breakfast, Jackson and Bex continued to connect as a couple. Bex recounted the events of the previous evening at DY's place, including her confrontation with the girls. Jackson chuckled, realizing why she left early and secretly hoping it was for him. It felt selfish, but everyone desires a bit of attention sometimes. Wanting to be up front, Jackson confessed, "Last night, holding you at the batting cages felt right. Maybe you felt it too." Beeks nodded, admitting, "I felt safe and cared for," her cheeks flushing. "To be honest, I've had a crush on you for years, but now I think I'm in love with you. I know you're married, but I'll wait for you as long as it takes." Reaching into her handbag, she retrieved an envelope. "I know my past, and I understand if you have doubts, but after you asked Di to leave and I told you I'd do anything to be with you, I knew I needed to show my commitment. I got an STD test the following Monday to prove I'm clean. I haven't been intimate with anyone in over a year, being completely honest." He admired her honesty. "Becky, I've seen you make mistakes, and I was there during the tough times before your divorce. I've always known you to be a good person, but I couldn't understand why you kept going out at night, especially when it led to your divorce." She glanced down. "Right now, you might not get it, and I hope you never have to, but when you're divorced with kids, you don't get to go on dates. But you still want to feel wanted, even if you know you're not someone's forever. A woman needs to feel desired, and I wanted closeness. It's as simple as that." Looking back up, she continued, "But I learned from that. Being a good mother became more important than hooking up. I thought that if I improved myself, maybe I'd attract a better kind of guy." "Why did you let Diana join you on your nights out?" He inquired, knowing she'd be honest. Reaching across the table, she took his hands. "I tried to stop her, but you know, once she sets her mind to something, it's happening. Even though I wasn't planning to leave with a guy, I felt I needed to be there to prevent her from making the same mistakes I did." He grinned at her. "You're not too great at that job." As they held hands, he spoke sincerely. "I feel like we have a connection, and when I said I'd date you that day on the patio, I meant it. You've always been the best of her friends, and I enjoy our conversations. I look forward to our lunches and calls. You keep me in check when I'm being dumb, and you always make me laugh. Plus, you're a fantastic mom." Beeks appeared concerned as she spoke. "Since we're being honest, I feel the same way, but look at me. I'm not like the others. I don't go to the gym. They criticize my mom bod. I don't have the money for that. It's tough to feed 3 teenage boys on my income. Child support barely covers their food expenses. He gently squeezed her hands. You look fantastic with your pretty and curvy figure. I really like curves, he said, grinning mischievously. I can't wait to see more of them. The server brought their bill and grinned as she overheard their conversation. He grabbed the check from the table as they got up. Turning to her, he asked, Do you have any plans for today? Beeks leaned into him, giving him a light kiss. Well, there's something I haven't done in a long time. It's been like over a year. In his boxers, Jackson stood in front of his bathroom mirror, feeling nervous. He was about to be close with a woman other than his soon-to-be ex-wife for the first time in over 25 years. After discovering Dewey's infidelity, he felt insecure, but he found Beeks incredibly attractive. His dad would have called her a woman with curves in all the right places. Taking a deep breath, he opened the door. He expected to find her waiting for him on the bed, but she surprised him by being under the covers with them pulled up to her chin. Jackson was slightly disappointed. He had wanted to unwrap her. As he pulled back the covers and joined Beeks in bed, he expressed his desire. You can unwrap me another time, she said softly. This is new for me, and I want to feel more comfortable. I don't want you to be disappointed in my body. Jackson reassured her. You could never disappoint me with your body. Regardless of how my ex looks, she looks that way for herself, not for me. I've always been turned on by curvy girls. He trailed his hand along her curves, from her hips to her plump bottom. Candace was right. It was a good size, thick, and just the right length, which made her smile. It wasn't like in the movies, but it was above average. For a moment, she thought of Di. Thanks, Di, for thinking you could find better than this. That was amazing, she said, a tear forming in her eye. It had been too. Long since she experienced something like that. Actually, she had never experienced anything quite like that before. Her ex and most of the men she'd been with since the divorce never made an effort to please her. As they lay together, Jackson held her close, cherishing the moment. He felt like a real man again. He hadn't realized how much Diana had affected him until now, but he knew it had left its mark. They drifted off to sleep in each other's arms. When Jackson woke up first, he gazed affectionately at Rebecca. His perception of her had shifted. Beeks was Diana's friend, but Rebecca was a mature woman he might be falling in love with. He enjoyed her company and cherished spending time with her and her boys. He hadn't realized how much he missed being a father figure. Rebecca, he said for the first time, I'm not sure where this will lead, but I don't want to be with anyone else but you. I don't want to assume you feel the same, but I hope you do. She kissed him back warmly. I'd love that. Rebecca's smile faded when she noticed the time on the alarm clock. Oh no, it's past 1. The boys must be worried. Jackson got out of bed and got a glimpse of her body for the first time, and he was pleased. Despite any insecurities she might have had about her weight, he found her perfect. Can I use your shower? Sure thing, he replied, briefly considering joining her in the shower but realizing that being a responsible mom was a priority. I'd like you to bring the boys back in a couple of hours. I want to make sure they're okay with me dating their mom, he requested. She smiled appreciatively at his thoughtfulness. Upon Rebecca's return with her sons, Jackson had burgers grilled and a table set with potato salad, beans, and condiments. After they finished eating, Jackson took the boys aside while she cleaned up the table mess. They gathered around the fire pit. Boys, I want to have a serious talk with you. I care a lot about your mom, and I'd like to start seeing her romantically, if that's okay with you. Your opinion is important to me because I've grown fond of all of you as well. Can I date your mom? The 3 boys exchanged looks, not accustomed to being asked such a question. None of them spoke to each other. The younger 2 glanced at the oldest brother, who nodded in agreement. The oldest, taking on a sense of responsibility, looked at Jackson. Yes, sir, we'd like that. Jackson rose to his feet, and the boys followed suit as he gathered them into a group hug. As they hugged, Jackson heard the youngest ask, Are you going to be our new dad? He hugged them tighter. If that's what you want, I'd be honored. Rebecca got emotional as she watched the scene unfold. Her boys needed a positive male influence in their lives just as much as she did. She grabbed a napkin to wipe away her tears as she saw the youngest boy grab a basketball from the shed and head towards the court with Jackson and his brothers for their usual 2-on-2 game. While she was taking out the trash from their meal, Rebecca heard the doorbell ring. Jackson, someone's at the door, she called out, but he didn't hear her over the sounds of the basketball game. She dried her hands on a kitchen towel and went inside the house to answer the door. As she opened the door, she was surprised to find Di standing there. Rebecca stumbled backward and ended up sitting on the floor when Di pushed her way inside. What are you doing in my house? Di snapped at her. Rebecca got back on her feet and pushed Di back a step. This isn't your house anymore. It belongs to Jackson. You live in an apartment over on Richard Street, remember? You kicked me out of it last night. Ignoring her, Di brushed past Rebecca, searching for Jackson. Where's my husband? I've been in jail all night. He should have come to bail me out. Rebecca stepped in front of Di, confronting her face to face. Why do you think he would bail you out of jail? He's my husband. It's his job, Di insisted. No, it's not his job to bail you out of jail for public intoxication. It's your responsibility to stay out of trouble, Rebecca said firmly, growing frustrated with her old friend. As Di searched through the rooms, Rebecca followed her, determined not to let her get away with whatever she was planning. I know why you're here, but it's not going to work. You pushed him away, and I tried to support him so he wouldn't end up like my ex did, spiraling into darkness. She stood with her hands on her hips, meeting Di's gaze directly. You're in the same spot I was 3 years ago. You messed up and lost your husband because you did things a married woman shouldn't do. Now you'll face the consequences. Loneliness hits hard. Every night you'll come home to a cold, quiet apartment, missing the sounds of a loving family. I was lucky I had my kids, but your son's grown and your husband's leaving you. It's going to be tough being lonely and 45, spending weeknights at home waiting for the weekends to find some man, any man, to keep you warm. Di stared back at Bex. Rebecca went on, offering some dating advice. Sure, you might find guys with bigger tools, but from what I've seen, they're too focused on themselves and their tools to offer anything else to a woman besides the act itself. They often struggle to keep jobs or have issues at work because they're chasing other women. They're only good for a quick act. You're attractive, so you'll find plenty of men willing to sleep with you, but those guys at the bar just want to get laid. You won't find a new husband there. Plus, at your age, most of those drunks have trouble getting it up. Steph makes it sound like you've been with dozens of guys in the last month, so I figure it's probably closer to 10 or 12. Since you're here, I bet none of them, including the guy with the big Johnson who started this mess, have been good lovers. Di stayed silent, but her lack of response spoke volumes. Di, I didn't plan for this, but this morning I made love to Jackson, Rebecca confessed. We share something. We both know he's an amazing lover, so caring, so passionate. She smiled to herself. That's something really special. Di started to cry. I'm so stupid. You're right, he's wonderful and he's the best lover I've ever had. I forgot that. I thought I could have an adventure he'd never find out about and experience something better, that once-in-a-lifetime kind of closeness. She paused, her voice dropping. But I already had that, she whispered. Beeks walked to the patio door. Jackson's outside with the boys. I can go get him. Di stood next to her friend, watching Jackson make a perfect shot in basketball. He's such a great dad. I forgot how much I enjoyed watching him play, she remarked, glancing at her friend. Do you love him? I do, Beeks confessed. Today was our first time together. I'm not sure if he loves me like I do him, but if he chooses me, I'll spend my life making him happy. Menopause is coming, and I know it'll change things. But Jackson seems like the type who will understand and work through it with me. Deanna teared up. I came here hoping to win him back, to be with him one more time, even if it's just out of pity. But if he's making love to you, it's over. He's moving on. I know him well enough to see that. Turning towards the door, Di paused. Let him know I'll get a lawyer and sign the papers. Rebecca informed Jackson about Deanna's visit and the impending legal proceedings. He helped her and the boys get ready to leave. Before they drove off, he kissed her gently and closed the car door. 7 months later, Deanna requested a brief meeting with Jackson and his attorney before their court appearance. Jackson understood Deanna needed closure. She apologized for her selfishness and resentment, admitting she'd forgotten how amazing he was. She regretted spending time with the girls, knowing he never approved. Deanna, I tried to warn you that married women can't act single. I knew you weren't faithful on girls' nights. People saw you, even if you didn't notice. I received pictures and messages over the years, but I ignored them because I loved you. But enough was enough. When I heard you planning to cheat, I knew it was over. If you didn't want me, you could have someone else, but I won't tolerate disrespect anymore, he said, rising to his feet. Take care, Deanna. You'll always have a place in my life. We share a son, so there'll be occasions like birthdays and holidays where we'll cross paths. I'll be polite and friendly. If there's an emergency, I'll be there, but we'll never share a bed again. I've always been faithful to one woman, and that won't change. With that, he closed the door, leaving Deanna in tears. Rebecca stood by Jackson near the basketball court. It marked their 5th anniversary, and she needed a moment of calm away from the festivities inside. Jackson's son had quickly bonded with her own boys, and now he was married with a child on the way. Back home, He worked with his father. Her eldest had graduated recently and was eager to start his own business. The middle one had pursued plumbing after trade school. Despite the celebration, she felt a pang, knowing her youngest was about to leave for college. Nearly 24 years as a mom, and now she faced being an empty nester and a grandmother. Jackson hugged her tightly, understanding the bittersweet moment as her youngest prepared to leave the nest. He smiled warmly at her. "Remember, I love you." She picked up the basketball. "I won't ever forget." Dribbling the ball, she glanced at Jackson. "Think the boys want to play?" He grinned back and they watched as their sons poured out of the patio door, ready to join in.
Story 2.
I discovered shocking videos of my wife cheating with 2 men, filed for divorce and took my revenge. I'm a 38-year-old man, happily married to a 41-year-old woman for about 15 years. We have 2 great kids in elementary school. Initially, our relationship was smooth and problem-free, but things took a turn for the worse after we got married. Despite our efforts to fix things, we couldn't maintain stability. I constantly tried to meet her ever-changing expectations, and it felt like as soon as I solved one problem, another one emerged. This cycle was exhausting, making me feel tired and disappointed. A few weeks ago, I made the tough choice to move out of our house. In December, she confided in me that she considered herself frigid and had no interest in being close, even though I had stopped initiating closeness a few years ago. She claimed it was unique to her. We sought therapy to address our closeness issues, discovering her past trauma. We spent several years in therapy, even seeking specialized help from another therapist. Despite our best efforts, our situation deteriorated, and for the last 7 years, we've had no bed life. I've battled mild depression throughout my life and eventually needed medication to cope. The combination of these meds and my kids prevented me from breaking down. In the new year, I noticed restlessness in my wife. She started reconnecting with old friends in different states, some of whom were going through divorces. After spending time with them, she confessed she wanted a divorce. The pain from our relationship struggles became unbearable. This time, it felt like I was mourning the loss of our entire family. As I dealt with my emotions, I began to reorganize my life whenever I could. I'm currently in the process of getting things in order. She's currently on a work break, and almost every day when I come home with the kids, she's absent. She retreats to our bedroom, and at times, her dissatisfaction with the kids or me has led me to take them to their grandparents to protect them from the tense atmosphere at home. During these tough times, I only reached out to my brother and his wife for support. Given my mother's ongoing battle with cancer, I didn't want to burden them further. But one weekend, things changed. During a rare free moment, my wife chose to spend time with her old friends. Feeling out of place, I asked my brother for a conversation. During our talk, he mentioned that his wife wanted to discuss something important, and his words shocked me. He suggested, "Maybe you should consider not delaying the divorce and talk to our parents." He revealed that a few years ago they had an affair during a family holiday. A conversation between my wife and my brother's wife took an unexpected turn. My wife said, "If we ever get divorced, I'll take everything he has from him." My heart raced, and I had a panic attack, the first since my teenage years. Her statements were so out of character that I couldn't believe she was serious. I turned to my brother for answers, desperate to know if it was a joke. His wife confirmed that my wife was serious. She then shared this revelation with my parents, leading me to call them. During that call, my emotions were in turmoil. I cried, felt awkward, and was deeply hurt. I felt sorry for burdening them, especially considering their own challenges. During the conversation, my mother disclosed that my wife had confided in her years ago. It turned out my wife was jealous of one of my cousins, who had recently divorced. She admired their courage, but my mother chose not to tell me, thinking it didn't matter. Suddenly, everything started to make sense. A clearer image of my wife began to form in my mind. I'd always had suspicions, but whenever I voiced them, she brushed them off and accused me of being paranoid and having trust issues. She convinced me she wasn't capable of such actions, making me doubt my intuition. Over time, I continued to gather information about our financial responsibilities, taxes, and other important matters. My wife's behavior became increasingly erratic, and it seemed like she was distancing herself from our relationship. She frequently sought opportunities to be away from our home and had a strong aversion to it. Eventually, she found comfort in living with her friend's elderly mother, who only asked for minimal rent. It turned out this woman craved companionship and needed assistance with household chores. A few weeks ago, after a night out with friends, we sat down with the children to have an open conversation about the situation. One of our kids, visibly upset, sought comfort in hugging their mother tightly, while another child reacted more calmly. But the emotions of the third child ran high upon learning that she would take the family dog with her. In less than a week, she decided to move out earlier than planned. My early morning hospital shifts made it challenging for her to come home at 2 a.m. to look after the kids. The day finally came when she moved out as scheduled, and my parents picked up the children. Unfortunately, she left without even hugging the kids goodbye. Less than a week after her departure, I mustered the courage to consult a lawyer and initiate the legal process. Surprisingly, she cooperated with a lawyer and promptly signed all the required documents to move the case forward. However, during the time the children were in my care, she made no effort to contact them. Her interactions with them were limited and, according to the kids, she often preferred exercising and burying herself in her phone without genuine interest in their lives. Regrettably, it seems my wife lacks a genuine interest in our children's lives except for maintaining her appearance. I won't delve into further details. After her departure, I gradually adapted to the situation and tried to provide a stable environment for our children. During her visits, I even supplied food when she faced financial difficulties and had nothing to eat. I also offered financial help a couple of times when she was in a tight spot. In an attempt to maintain civility, I decided to provide her with some financial assistance, considering it a contribution to our shared account, which we hadn't yet divided. Some may criticize this decision as foolish, but I believe it fosters a better environment and contributes to our children's well-being. That's what I tell myself, and it's not entirely untrue. The culmination of all these issues occurred at the end of last week when she took the children away for a few days, coinciding with one of my long shifts. Upon returning home from work that day, I consciously used the time without my children to engage in various hobbies and activities I enjoy, including working on music. I set up my computer and started connecting everything. Unfortunately, annoying messages about synchronization issues with my wife's iCloud account kept popping up on the screen. Disappointed, I attempted to resolve the problem. While navigating the photos on my computer, I stumbled upon something unexpected. If you think you know what happened next, your assumptions are correct. Despite her attempts to clean the computer before leaving, some remnants went unnoticed. To my surprise, I found a large number of photos and videos, some of which were explicit and revealed her infidelity with a mutual friend. This discovery was devastating, as it felt like I had spent the last 15 years of my life in a marriage built on a false illusion. It shattered the image she had crafted over the years. The day after uncovering these clues, she brought the children back home, and I made an effort to remain composed. I chose not to confront her about what I had found, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy for the sake of our children. There are other aspects of this story that I may share in the future. A part of me appreciates that I did everything I could to salvage our relationship because, without this revelation, I might have remained oblivious to the truth. I wonder if I would have regretted not putting in more effort. However, another part of me underscores the importance of trusting your intuition. Sometimes when something doesn't feel right, it's crucial not to let others convince you otherwise. I'm not suggesting that one's intuition is always accurate, but it shouldn't be dismissed. In any case, to provide more context, let me fill in some gaps. Firstly, the person she cheated with isn't married, her ex-boyfriend. I discovered a message she sent to him during our therapy sessions, in which she vividly described a dream of engaging in an act with her ex-boyfriend. She concluded the message by advising him not to disclose it to me, claiming I'd react strongly. When I confronted her about this, she brushed off my concerns, saying I was overreacting and even suggested that our therapist shared the same view. Interestingly, it turned out that this therapist was the same one she had seen during her teenage and early 20s. In hindsight, I question why I ever thought this therapist was the right choice. I want to stress the importance of honesty and open communication. Let me clarify that I have no intentions of sharing any of her photos. I see them as undeniable evidence of her unfaithfulness, and yes, they are time-stamped. I plan to provide all this information to my lawyer. Since the start of January, I've diligently documented each day, carefully recording the time and details of her actions and interactions with the children. Now that she's moved into her own place, I won't be able to videotape these interactions anymore. I considered the option of audio recording during our personal conversations, and my lawyer supported this idea. Currently, it appears that she's deeply in love with someone else and is looking forward to a divorce, especially because she's entitled to half of my $401k. As for our property, before she moved out, we managed to divide everything amicably. Truth be told, we didn't have much property to split because we sold our house at the end of last year. After the sale, my wife and I decided to move into my parents' old house, which is in a trust and doesn't belong to either of us. We evenly divided the money we received from the house sale between us. Unfortunately, my wife managed to spend her share of approximately $114,000 in less than 2 months, leaving very little behind. Some of this money went towards supporting her lover, as indicated by a $100 bill I have. There may be other evidence of similar expenses. Initially, we agreed on a 50-50 custody arrangement for the children, with neither of us paying alimony or child support. However, after this situation came to light, my lawyer mentioned that the original agreement might not hold much legal weight. He offered to formalize it if I wanted, but at the time, I told him not to worry since no information about it had surfaced. About a week later, I brought up the topic of revising the custody agreement with my wife. I suggested adjusting it to a 60-40 split in my favor. Surprisingly, when I proposed that she become the primary guardian, she agreed without any resistance. I suspect her current focus on her own life has driven her to create the image of a responsible mother. Her own mother often engages in conversations with her, believing she's fulfilling her parental duties, which only adds to my wife's stress. Yesterday, I received an unexpected phone call from her. This was unusual since she typically communicates via text messages. I had the impression she wanted to discuss the person she's dating, but her actual intentions surprised me. During the call, she tearfully shared her struggles with physical therapy due to a toe injury she sustained at work last year. She expressed frustration with the slow progress in treatment and difficulty in moving her toe correctly. Furthermore, she mentioned that she's not allowed to drive for health reasons. During our conversation, she told me she's heavily involved in physical exercises, which brought a faint smile to my face for the first time since I found the incriminating photos and videos. She also spoke of financial difficulties and doubts about selling the house where she now lives with someone else. Moreover, she expressed concerns about how she'll manage her time with the children upon returning to work. Despite having taken them with her for part-time weekends over the last 2 weeks, she mentioned that she had many plans for the upcoming weekend in the city. During the conversation, it became evident that she was finding it challenging to spend consistent time with the children, and she couldn't see them as often as she'd like. In response, I tried to remain accommodating, hoping we could work together to establish a daily routine that would allow her regular access to the children. However, she mentioned casually that her initial plan to move closer to us might not be feasible due to potential high costs. She might have to move even farther away, around 15 miles. In response to her uncertain life situation, I reassured her that, for the children's sake, we'd find a way to resolve the issue. But to my surprise, she seemed open to this possibility. She casually brought up the idea of moving across the border to a neighboring state to secure a higher income. Despite increased living costs, this decision would mean we'd be quite far apart, about 70 to 90 miles, making it likely that she'd see the children even less often. I couldn't help but feel disheartened, as I could hardly imagine how such a significant move would align with the children's schedule and well-being. As I watched the situation unfold and considered our shared responsibilities, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was becoming less interested in our children, almost as if she were trying to shift her parental duties onto me. The thought that she wanted to move so far away from the children we brought into this world troubled me deeply. After making the decision to unravel the situation, I embarked on an investigation to uncover more pieces of the puzzle. In the course of this investigation, I delved into her lover's social media account and stumbled upon explicit evidence about her partner. This revelation was a harsh reality for her. It became evident that she was willing to forsake her own children to be closer to her lover. Her choice to relocate was primarily motivated by the opportunity to be with her lover, leading her to consider abandoning our children and parental responsibilities, leaving me as the sole caregiver. Simultaneously, she aimed to keep up the appearance of a responsible mother in front of family and friends. I couldn't fathom how one could upend their entire life and schedule based on their lover's whims. I was devastated, filled with heartache and anger. I couldn't let her shirk her responsibilities as a parent. Observing her attempt to maintain the facade of a caring mother while planning to desert our family, I took decisive action. I reached out to my lawyer and filed a request to terminate her parental rights. When she called to chastise me for my actions, I disclosed the truth to her. Her decision to leave the family was solely influenced by her affair partner. I implored her to consider transferring custody of the children to me. During our conversation, it seemed like she might agree, but her stance quickly changed when I mentioned that I wouldn't hide the truth. She reacted with anger and surprise. She flatly refused to relinquish her parental rights, stubbornly upholding the facade of motherhood despite her actions suggesting otherwise. It was evident that she cared more about fulfilling her own desires than the welfare of our children. Disappointment and determination welled up within me, driving me to reveal the truth to her family. I believed it was necessary for them to understand the kind of person she had become. Despite the painful nature of this step, I deemed it essential for securing my children's future. Upon learning of my actions, she grew furious and persistently contested my decision. She made it clear that she intended to proceed with her move and had no intention of surrendering her maternal rights. She proposed that we co-parent from a considerable distance. In response, she accused me of being vindictive and manipulative, but I chose not to engage in an argument with her. Instead, I sought legal assistance and discussed alimony with my father. When she realized that receiving alimony would require her to financially contribute to our children's support, something she couldn't afford, the situation shifted. Her partner didn't appear willing to assume that responsibility either. Suddenly, she became concerned about preserving her reputation. Overburdened with the responsibilities of a responsible parent, she couldn't bear the financial weight of alimony and feared further damage to her image. In the end, she abandoned her relocation plans and reluctantly consented to continue shared custody of our children. This victory was hard-won and rooted in my unwavering principles. Despite knowing that she prioritized her lover over our children, I refused to compromise their well-being for her sake. I did everything in my power to ensure the mother of my children remained a part of their upbringing and lives. Naturally, her lover didn't want these complications, and he soon vanished from my ex-wife's life. Afterward, she made active attempts to seduce me and rekindle our relationship to return to our lives with the children. However, I firmly conveyed that I had no interest in someone as dishonest and fickle as her. End of the story. Story 2. I am a 50-year-old nurse, working diligently at a busy hospital. Currently, I find myself at a crucial moment in life. In front of me, there's a green piece of paper with my name and signature on it. It's a divorce document. As I look at it, I let out a heavy sigh. Let me introduce you to my wife, Mary, who happens to be 3 years younger than me. Our story started 5 years ago when I got married at the age of 45. We met at work, where Mary was a medical assistant. Both of us were so focused on our careers that finding a life partner wasn't something we'd thought much about. But fate had other plans, and we started dating, which eventually led to marriage. Considering our ages, we took things slow before deciding to get married. After a few years of dating, we tied the knot later in life, with me at 45 and Mary at 42. We decided not to have children and dedicated our years to each other. Little did we know that our ideal vision of marriage would soon be tested. Reality had different plans for us. Our demanding jobs led to conflicting schedules, especially because of my night shifts. Health issues, particularly for Mary, became a part of our lives. Menopause arrived, bringing with it a range of challenges like constant irritability, fatigue, mood swings, and emotional turmoil. Although I struggled to fully understand what she was going through, it was clear that Mary was in pain. Our lives became filled with minor disputes, and our relationship was overshadowed by exhaustion and dissatisfaction. Over 5 years, our affection had turned into indifference. I began to question the purpose of our relationship. Every day felt like a battleground, with arguments and bitter exchanges. Was this the life we were meant to live? My thoughts were interrupted when Mary returned home. She greeted me apathetically as she entered. Hiding the divorce papers under the table, I waited for her in the living room. When she appeared, her mood matched the cold atmosphere. Even a simple hi felt like a reminder of the love that had faded away. Summoning my courage, I brought up the topic of divorce. Mary's reaction was unexpectedly calm. She showed no surprise or sorrow. Her composed demeanor reflected acceptance. Her response matched the frigid state of our relationship. With few words exchanged, I handed her the divorce papers and she signed them without hesitation. Tomorrow, I plan to submit these papers to City Hall, marking the end of a 5-year chapter in our lives. At this turning point, I reflect on the journey I embarked on, a late marriage born from work, a union that showed promise but succumbed to its challenges. As I stand on the edge of change, I think about the choices that brought us here. Sometimes, life's complexities unravel even the strongest bonds, leaving behind memories of what was and what might have been. I'll prepare dinner one last time, Mary said, her voice filling the kitchen as she started cooking. Even after signing the divorce papers, Mary's demeanor remained unchanged. The routine continued. She ate her dinner and went to bed early. It felt strangely surreal, how nothing seemed different on the surface, but beneath it, change had indeed occurred. I realized this just before bedtime. Our bedroom looked the same, but something had shifted. We slept in separate beds, a practice that had become familiar over time. Sharing a bed had become a rarity, replaced by the quiet separation of sleeping arrangements. As I struggled with sleeplessness, Mary initiated a conversation. The distance between us had limited meaningful exchanges, but tonight was an exception. We reminisced about our early days, laughing as we recalled a time when Mary used to sneak into my bed, complaining about the cold. Her playful attempts to get my attention in our prime, subtle flirtations were common, though age had tamed those impulses. Tonight, Mary's choice of clothing seemed reminiscent of those days. Her skimpy pajamas brought back memories. She caught my gaze and expressed her desire with a knowing smile. "May I join you in bed? It's chilly," she requested, her words hanging in the air. I hesitated briefly, but welcomed her into the sheets. We acknowledged the passage of time, no longer the young lovers of the past, now on the brink of parting ways. With a shared understanding, we decided to make this night a poignant memory. Mary's presence next to me brought back bittersweet memories. Over the years, life had changed her, a testament to the challenges she had faced. It wasn't about rekindling the marriage, but a silent wish to see her content. Amid these thoughts, we exchanged a simple good night. Sleep soon overtook us, ending the day. The next morning came and Mary was gone. Her things had disappeared from our room, leaving no sign of her. However, there was a note in the living room, a brief message thanking me and urging me to take care of myself. That's all it said, a heartfelt farewell. Months passed, and life took a new direction. A change in jobs led me to a busy hospital, providing a fresh start that distanced me from the memory of a failed marriage. The divorce had created discomfort at work, and the need for financial stability influenced my choices. Despite being single, my dedication to work remained unchanged. The idea of marriage was distant for now. I found comfort in the absence of workplace romances, a chapter firmly closed. "Mr. Jones, a new patient arrived some time ago," my boss called me over. As I looked through the patient paperwork, I realized that this person was battling cancer. They had been getting treatment at another hospital as an outpatient, but now were being admitted for chemotherapy. Surprisingly, this patient had the same name as my ex-wife, Mary, and even more astonishing, their last name matched Mary's maiden name. Feeling a strange connection, I went to greet her while checking her temperature. "Excuse me, it's time for your temperature check," I said as I entered the private room. The patient, who had been looking out of the window, turned to face me. To my amazement, it was Mary, the woman I had once been married to. Her face was pale, her cheeks sunken, and she looked incredibly thin. But there was no doubt it was her. In a faint but unmistakable voice, I heard Mary's familiar tone. She was also surprised to see me, but my surprise was even greater. The medical chart showed the seriousness of her cancer. It was more than just some weight loss or low energy. Looking at her drastically changed condition, it was clear she was in critical condition. The chart also indicated that her cancer had been diagnosed just before we divorced. On the day I brought up the divorce, Mary must have known about her illness. "Why didn't you tell me about the cancer?" I blurted out, even though I knew I didn't have the right to know anymore. Mary responded, explaining that she thought our marriage was already falling apart, with or without the cancer. She blamed herself for the deterioration and realized she couldn't hold me back, especially given her limited time. Listening to her explanation, regret washed over me. Why hadn't we communicated better? Why hadn't I noticed her changes? I had let her go through her illness alone, adding to her pain. Despite her health struggles, she had agreed to the divorce. Amid my self-blame and despair, Mary scolded me, saying, "You're healthier than I am, so don't hang your head so low." She reminded me of the times she had supported me during my moments of self-doubt. Now, I was facing the consequences of not repaying her kindness. The woman who had been my support for 5 years was right in front of me. I looked at Mary with newfound determination. I knew I didn't have the right to say this, but I wanted to take care of her until the end. I bowed my head, and, in response, Mary gently smacked me on the head, with a mix of exasperation and joy on her face. With persistence, I wore down her reluctance, and she finally agreed, with an expression that combined both emotions. From that moment on, I took care of Mary. Despite her parents visiting, it was clear that she needed additional care and support. While I had worried that her family might not accept me, they did, understanding the complexities of the situation. With Mary's family living far away, it fell on me to tend to her daily needs. In the following months, I visited Mary's hospital room without fail, regardless of my work schedule. I was there before work, after work, during days off, and before night shifts. Mary's chemotherapy treatment began, and although I had cared for numerous patients professionally, the experience was entirely different when it was a family member. Treating a stranger versus treating family brought forth a tidal wave of emotions. My intention was to provide professional support, but inevitably, my heart became deeply involved in her journey. I was overwhelmed by despair. Mary had immediately started treatment after our divorce, yet it appeared ineffective against the metastasized cancer. The harsh reality of cancer treatment, painful and grueling, was something she faced. Alone, I deeply wished I could have been there for her, but helplessness held me captive. In the face of adversity, Mary's spirit remained unbroken. She fought her battle with courage, even managing to smile despite the misery. Her resilience, however, painfully reminded me of my own limitations. There was little I could do to alleviate her suffering. Then, a cruel twist, Mary's treatment had to be halted due to her weakened state. Aggressive measures were no longer feasible, and we had to embrace this heart-wrenching reality. Mary accepted it with grace, whispering her intent to live her remaining days to the fullest. I became her pillar of support, sharing laughter over anecdotes, taking walks on better days, and even attempting crafts together. Although my attempts were often clumsy, Mary's laughter at my awkward creations brought us immense joy. For a while, these simple pleasures sufficed. Amid these tender moments, the cancer persisted, taking a relentless toll on her. Our days of joy were fleeting as her condition deteriorated rapidly. Sleepless nights were plagued by pain, and tears streamed down more frequently, often hidden from my view. Painkillers helped ease her distress, but gradually, vitality waned, and her laughter became rare. I could only offer words of encouragement, but Mary valued them deeply. "Thank you for always being there," she expressed, acknowledging the significance of my presence. My daily visits gave her the strength to continue, a sentiment she openly shared. Her immobility drew us closer, and yet we remained strangers in the eyes of the world due to our past choices. I had wanted it that way, but now regret gnawed at me. In an attempt to convey my rekindled feelings, I made a heartfelt proposal to Mary in that quiet hospital room. "Will you marry me?" I finally uttered. Mary's response, light-hearted and affectionate, expressed her delight. Despite her refusal, while I was met with a resounding rejection, I couldn't give up. I presented her with a marriage certificate, my signature already adorning it. Her joy at the gesture was palpable, a testament to the connection we had forged. A few days later, Mary passed away, exceeding her expected time by a month. She fought bravely with unwavering determination. While grieving her loss and preparing for her funeral, I realized she had lived an extra month because of our strong connection. The funeral plans came together quickly. Even though we weren't legally married, Mary's parents insisted that I sit with them in the family section. Initially hesitant, I accepted and felt honored by their gesture. The funeral proceeded, and eventually, we made our way to the gravesite. Surprisingly, I didn't shed tears. I had already cried while taking care of Mary. As we waited for the final part of the burial, I sat on a bench, staring blankly at the sky. Mary was no longer in this world, leaving a void in my heart. Unexpectedly, Mary's mother noticed me. She softly said, "Ken, you were here." Her red, swollen eyes revealed the depth of our shared grief. Her sorrow was undoubtedly deeper than mine, as she had lost her daughter. She gave me a letter that Mary had intended me to receive on the day of her funeral. With a trembling heart, I received the letter and a diary that Mary had left behind. Opening the diary, I found it to be as simple and genuine as Mary herself. It began with short notes about everyday things, but became more detailed when we met. It chronicled our dates, my job evaluations, our conversations, and even the ordinary mishaps of our life together. The entries shifted from notes about me to reflections on her own feelings as she approached menopause. Her tone changed. She expressed frustrations and regrets, especially about how she had directed her frustrations at me. She regretted her inability to have productive conversations and acknowledged my growing emotional distance. The last pages of the diary were filled with a heavy sense of remorse, a recurring theme day after day. One specific date in the diary caught my attention. It was a month before our divorce, the day she learned of her cancer diagnosis. She had deliberately hidden her emotions from me, keeping a tough exterior. A particular entry stood out, the day I had proposed divorce. Her words painted a picture of her happiness as she reminisced about our earlier happier times. But then her entry abruptly ended, leaving me with the weight of her unspoken thoughts. I hadn't realized how deeply she had been thinking about me. With a heart full of emotion, I turned to the letter. She expressed disbelief at seeing me again in a new hospital and her hesitation to burden me with her situation. However, my offer to care for her had deeply moved her. She apologized for not being able to refuse and nearly breaking down emotionally when I proposed again. Her regrets had faded, and she faced her imminent departure with acceptance. She asked me not to grieve for her and urged me to wait until old age to reunite in heaven. Her final wish was clear, that if my feelings remained unchanged, we would marry again in the afterlife. The letter ended with a promise to keep our marriage certificate. As I read, tears flowed uncontrollably. Mary's emotions poured from these pages, and I was touched by the depth of her feelings. Mary's parents' gesture of allowing me to sit with the family at the funeral aligned with Mary's wishes. For a while, I openly wept with swollen eyes. Yet by the grave, I remembered her wish for me not to cry. So I composed myself and bid her farewell with a smile. Mary rested peacefully in the casket, holding our marriage certificate. Her expression was calm, and her grasp on the document was strong. Her signature below mine marked a bond that had endured trials and sorrow.
Story 3.
Cheating wife invited her affair partner to our kid's birthday, so I made them both regret it. Hello. I've been a lurker here for a little while, trying to process infidelity in my life. Long story short, my wife and I have been married 8 years, together a few years longer in total, and have 2 small kids. This year has been tough, and we have had our arguments, but nothing that I would ever think would push my wife to cheat. Anyways, I noticed her lately being distant and uncommunicative and decided to confront her one evening. At that time, she said that she was not happy and couldn't feel a spark anymore. At first, I freaked out on myself, thinking I was being a non-attentive husband, truthfully an issue. However, the next day, I caught a very strange message on her phone that was extremely lovey-dovey. I took a look and then found my wife was messaging a man for a long time, with lots of "I love yous" and plans for a future together. Effing destroyed. Anyways, taking the advice of the many threads on here, I didn't confront initially. I actually read as much as I could, contacted a couple of lawyers for advice, one now on retainer, and got my head on straight and calm. I confronted my wife a couple of days ago calmly and asked if she was having an affair. After a couple of minutes, she admitted everything. Long story short, it's been going on for 6 months, and she claims it's the deepest emotional connection ever, complete BS, but whatever. To end it all, I gave my list of boundaries, cut off contact, marriage counseling, etc. The thing that I think is the final nail of an honest attempt to reconcile is she got extremely aggravated with cutting off contact. Especially when I told her to do it in front of me and even insisted to see him one last time for closure. I held my ground and told her if he is so important, pack a bag and go live with him, to which she backed off. But not before she told me I was a controlling a hole. Anyways, she sent a text this morning and showed me, but my spidey senses seem to think she will try different means of communication. I'm thinking there is no hope. And I honestly don't want it at this point. But I just wanted to be able to tell my kids in 20 years I at least tried. We have marriage counseling tomorrow, but I'm thinking it's time to file before wasting any more time or grief. I'm cautious to move too fast because of my kids, but is this the right way to do it? The LP continued in the comments. Wow, this thread got big fast. Thanks for the awesome comments. It's been helpful to get validation. I had the paperwork filled out with my lawyer. They just need to process it, and I will have to pick a date to have her served. You're all right. This will not end well if I do go the doormat route. I need to think about my future, my kids, and move on. One person responds, "It honestly is great to see someone not be a doormat in this situation. Honestly, good on you for playing it smart. It will suck, but keep that rage on red hot. Don't let it cool down because you're keeping your head in the game. You will thank yourself later for this. Your kids will also, once they are capable of understanding. I would actually consider keeping the evidence locked away in case she ever tries telling the children a different story so they can see it with their own eyes. Probably too extreme and not a good parent thing to do to go that scorched earth and salt the fields." OP responds, "Honestly, I think you'd be doing your children a disservice if you stayed with a woman like that. Kids aren't dumb, they catch on to things. If they see you allowing yourself to be mistreated, they'd allow themselves to be mistreated with whatever toxic partners they would gravitate towards later in life. If your wife insists on seeing her affair partner one last time, you know for certain it's never ever going to be the last time." Update: the past few weeks, simply put, sucked, but it's given me time for a lot of soul-searching and thinking. As an update from the previous thread, the wife and I did attend some counseling after the initial confrontation. And I will say this particular counselor has been very good about listening to both of us and not assigning blame or anything like that, and helping to navigate our new reality. She has also helped to uncover some structural issues in our relationship, and while it doesn't at all excuse my wife's behavior, it's helpful at least knowing for a future relationship and not repeating the same mistakes. As also mentioned in the thread, my wife's initial reaction to my boundary to cut off contact with the affair partner appeared to go unheeded. And I did catch small messages between them before she completely went dark with her chat logs and phone. After seeing that, I decided to file, and she was served a few days ago. In parallel, I decided to have a heart-to-heart with my father-in-law. As we are super close and I needed to prioritize this support for our kids versus our relationship, as I could see my wife wanted to sweep this under a rug. Needless to say, my wife was initially extremely upset her fantasy was blown up, but her therapist did talk it through with her from my point of view on why this needed to happen. And I think she has started to realize the consequence of her actions and start to see there are real things that are going to be lost. From here on out, I'm just trying to process the new life ahead and the huge change in my identity from a husband, father, to something else. Same with her. I will say since I filed, my wife was immediately shocked when I dropped that on her, and she has been very emotional these past few days. I honestly think she thought I would never be able to walk away. I've kept her at arm's length, but I have seen a distinct change in her, and on a positive note, we have talked more. Kept our conversation civil and focused on our shared priorities, children mostly. I've made it very clear to her that she left a huge wound on me, and that she has to do the heavy lifting to help repair and give me space and time if I can ever begin to forgive. I'll say it and again. Her actions are the most selfish, self-centered, horrible thing you could do to a person, but I have not lost sight that we still need to raise our children. And that is my focus point as I navigate how I will move forward to the next phase of my personal happiness. I wanted to thank everyone for the previous comments and insight. I'm honestly proud that I found the strength to not wallow in self-pity, anger, or sadness and was able to make the right moves to retain my dignity and look forward to the bright future. I honestly don't know all the next moves, and my feelings are constantly in flux, but I'm starting to feel some inner peace. Thank you all again. Small update, I'm in the post-serving part and working closely with my counsel. What I'm looking for is if any betrayed spouses here took advantage of the affair fog to get better divorce terms and how you pulled it off. My soon-to-be ex-wife is clearly deep in the fog, still contacting her partner, which at the moment I haven't bothered her since it's a good distraction. What did people get agreements on that were unexpected? Any advice is greatly appreciated on how to move through this phase, and also to keep her off balance is also helpful. Besides Grey Rock and 180, I've been going out much more unexpectedly and not divulging details of my activity. Update advice: Grey Rocking during divorce proceedings. Hi everyone. I posted a few threads about my ongoing saga, but the abridged version is: wife cheated, I caught her, she gave me the I love you but not in love, and the affair partner is the greatest emotional connection ever BS, and has circle truth gaslit everything through the script. I then proceeded to draw papers on her, and well, here we are a few weeks later. Long story short, now in the post-serving phase and have to cohabitate for now since I want to spend as much time with my children as possible. I'm now in a separate room too, so this has helped me begin to get that distance. I've implemented the Grey Rock with my soon-to-be ex-wife, generally trying not to be interested in any discussion. But I have to fake it a little, especially with kids around. They're still small, but try to be upbeat as they can sense a lot. I'm also not making myself available in the evening, going out with friends, working out, whatever. Any other advice on how to best handle the situation? It's a delicate balance. I want as much bonding time with my kids and have sucked it up for family dinners and whatnot. Any other do's and don'ts? Honestly, it seems like you're making all the right moves, OP. The best thing you can do right now is focus on your children. As you said earlier, your children looking back and seeing how you treated their mother as you were going through this will speak volumes about your character. It will serve as a huge lesson on how to treat others who have wronged you. You're a great father, OP. Update: I've made a few posts prior, and to those that don't know the story, it's simply: wife cheated, greatest emotional connection ever, love you but not in love, etc. I threw down papers, and while I'm just over 1.5 months after D-Day and working like hell to move on, the purpose of this post is not for any update. All I can say is the process is ongoing, and I will give the appropriate update at the right time, likely a while. My only request is for anyone that has gone through the process, please share any good advice, lessons learned, things you would have done differently, or good things to know. The advice in the previous posts has been super helpful, and those that have reached out in other ways have been incredible. Just reaching out in case there is more that can help. Update: she cheated, but I'm made to feel like the a-hole. Hey everyone, my story can be found in my post history, but long story short, as always, wife cheated, found her greatest emotional connection ever, I threw down papers, and the train is riding to D-Town. Just wanted to get some stories on how folks dealt with in-laws, friends, etc., making you out to be the bad guy. I did get to jump after filing and told some of the in-laws, my family, and some friends, but I didn't broadcast too wide as I wanted to keep some things quiet. That being said, I know my soon-to-be ex-wife likely threw down her side, and well, I'm getting some cold vibes from a lot of her family and some other folks. I know blood is thicker than water, but it sucks when your close family turns their backs despite being a good dad and the wife being an immoral turd. Did people start to see stuff later on and change their opinion, or just stop caring and move on? I think it's inevitable for people to take sides in situations like this. But those who choose to believe her were never really loyal to you anyways, were they? You don't need people like that anyway. You only need to focus on your kids. You only need to focus on your side of the court. At the end of the day, you know what happened. You know the truth. That's all that matters. Update: hi everyone. As of today, there is some closure coming my way in my saga that started over the summer, and I've been posting, getting advice from everyone here. I just want to start off and thank this community for the incredible support and advice, especially to those folks who privately messaged and offered words of wisdom along the way. This is a crappy process to go through, especially when close family is far away. It sucks to be alone with your thoughts, but there is some wisdom and introspection to gain during this. For those that need a recap, one of the many threads is below. But the TLDR is my wife cheated and tried to hide it. I found out, realized there was no hope as she was deep in the fog with the affair partner and immediately filed on her. Anyways, the past few months have been frosty but relatively drama-free as the soon-to-be ex and I separated our lives in the house but still did things for our children. The discovery and mediation process proceeded pretty quickly. We agreed on 50/50ths for our kids, along with schedules and holidays, and since it's a no-fault state, asset division was by the book with some give and take. I won't go into details too much at this time, maybe another post in the future, but I will be finding a place soon for a fresh start. The final conclusion is on the horizon, but for the most part, the D is complete. As for my advice from this whole fiasco, I learned a bunch of things. 1. Don't bother with the pick-me dance. I tried for a week before wising up to her cheating. My soon-to-be ex is still in the fog, but it's her decision, she needs to live with it. 2. Do lawyer up with an experienced family law attorney who is reasonable. I can't say enough of the person who took care of me. Understanding that this is what I want versus reality was important in converging to the end. I don't have any crazy ridiculous fees as I did a lot of the prep and avoided hours and hours of back and forth. And this was able to be settled rather quickly. 3. Do lean on friends and family to support as much as possible. 4. Working out exercise is key to keeping your mental health. I hit the weights a month after D-Day, and I'm starting to reap the benefits, and that confidence has been helpful to get across the finish line. 5. Get into individual counseling and talk with someone. This has helped me tremendously. 6. I realize this from all the posts I read, but the cheaters' decisions are all on them. I heard it all from my soon-to-be ex. I was a roommate. I love you but not in love. Our marriage went so wrong. I worked too much. Blah blah. Truth be told, now that I know the timeline, our marriage went wrong after she invited someone in her life that was feeding her lines that stroked her ego and gave her extra attention. And she had to put up walls and make me the bad guy to justify this in her mind. Sure, she may have been stressed from kids, day-to-day life, and a long-term marriage, but not communicating to her husband and confiding in a two-time divorced cheater with no moral compass is all on her and a recipe for disaster. The exciting final chapter of Captain Sacknuts Freeman, A Cheese 5-Year Plan, Sid Affair Partner, is yet to be written, but poor choices carry consequences. That is all I will say on the matter. Again, thank you to everyone. I still have a lot of work ahead, but also many adventures in this new chapter of my life. I hope I can return the favor to anyone who needs it. Please reach out if anyone needs a helping hand. I'm here. Update: has your ex pushed to still be in your life after divorce? Got a question for the group. My post history details the greatest emotional connection love story ever. I'm not so far away from moving into my own place. As I have a couple of kids with my soon-to-be ex and also for legal reasons, I have remained in our marital house as this process has taken place. I have posted a couple of other threads of the ongoing saga. Thankfully, the light is at the end of the tunnel for me soon. Obviously, I have to co-parent with my cheating ex and will be friendly for that. But I have been firm in saying she killed our marriage and by default, any sort of friendship. I have no room in my life for a lying cheater. She has, however, been insistent about wanting to be there for me, promising to help decorate my new house, and keeping holiday traditions for the kids. Again, I have remained firm in saying she torpedoed our relationship and wanted to replace me, so I'm simply giving her that wish, and even gone as far as to say she won't be a welcome guest at my house. Has anyone had this happen with the ex wanting to hang around? I have to guess it's some sort of optic. If we are friends, the split can't be so bad. Someone responds she's doing it for herself. It would absolve her partially from her guilt, at least in her mind. It would mean that the betrayal and hurt cannot be that big of a deal if you still let her be in your inner circle. Don't let her. OP replies. Yep, I know. She is always concerned with image management, constantly posting on social media, etc. I've been letting my social media dry up anyways for my mental health. But she is definitely not in my inner circle, nor have I been sharing my thoughts plans with her. Another individual says she's doing it as a control tactic. She's taking advantage of the fact that she has a new shag locked and loaded ready to go and you don't. Help you decorate your new house. AKA she's trying to take control and put her stamp on your new family home, and yet would in no way allow you to help her with the new greatest of all time decorate their viper's nest. Keeping holiday traditions is exactly the same thing, as she gets to create the traditions with you and in her own home before you get a new person. You can bet your boots she'd try to treat your eventual new person as the outsider. Next person offers, it's the only way she can save face. You'd be her friend, and she can say, see, we were meant to be just friends. Don't give in. Hell, don't even respond. Gray rock the hell out of her. I would even consider not telling her where you live the first couple of months and doing handovers in a neutral place, or her place, to enforce that point. Otherwise, be consistent with your messaging. We are not friends. Let's learn to strictly co-parent. I do not want you in my personal life anymore. Consider forcing the conversation to a co-parenting app if you need to force the message home. She lives in a dual world. Here, where she fell out of romantic love for you a long time ago but still cares about you as the father of her kids, and imagine some scenario where y'all will happily co-parent and share holidays and such. Zero empathy for your feelings. What a sick game. She's trying to find ways to weasel into your life outside of communication purely based on the kids. It's just a means of trying to still control you. She doesn't want to be your friend. She wants you to be her puppet. Update: as of today, the official decree went out, and I'm no longer married. I also picked up the keys to my new house and will start the process to move as soon as possible. I did choose to take a buyout, as I felt it was best to start fresh in a place of my own to make new memories, and I really got lucky. I found a nicely kept-up house barely a minute away from my current home. Huge fenced-in backyard, wood fire pit, big garage, and primo location. I also back up to a nature preserve, as I'm an avid outdoorsman biker. I have a gateway to my own little paradise. Some will ask, why so close? Well, I want to be close to my kids because they need to know their dad is close by for when they need me. Thanks for the advice of this community. I kept my mind focused on what was important, started a workout program, and also dove headfirst into a new career opportunity that recently paid itself huge dividends. I have not bothered with online dating or seeking out a new partner and will likely enjoy the single life for a while. I have my 2 little kids to focus on and fully plan on focusing on them and my personal growth for a little while. As for my ex and affair partner, I honestly have started to let go of that disaster. Whatever happens will happen, and it's no longer my concern. As someone eloquently said before, when someone gets with somebody who cheated on their spouse, they are getting someone who cheated on their spouse. I did my best as a husband and father, and it's time for someone else to appreciate it. Thank you for all the messages, advice, well wishes, and so on. My life has depended on this so much these past months when I didn't have very many close by to turn to. For those that are at the very beginning of this crap deal, please keep putting one foot in front of the other and surviving every day. I'm not an expert in life, but I'm also willing to lend an ear to those who need it. Good luck, y'all. Update: I'll have a life update coming soon, as I have some pretty major things, mostly good, happening after my official divorce. That being said, in my new free time, I unfortunately have looked back and saw the life I had planned evaporate and wonder, how could this happen in such a short time? I'm sure everyone has had much time to ponder the who, what, where, when, why, but I look back. And my wayward spouse and I had a great life ahead of us, careers that are doing great after some initial major efforts to establish ourselves paid off. Home, 2 beautiful children who are now out of diapers, kids' college funds being funded, amongst the multitude of other things going for us. Thinking about this is my last hurdle to get over, but I really can't understand the mindset of someone who had so much going for her but decided to nuke it all and is going all in on an unreliable serial cheating turd. Need I mention OMB one more time to this group? I know I'm going to struggle for a while to heal from all this, but I just look at our history and lives together and just think, how can a person be so selfish and stupid? I get that desire can't be negotiated and all that jazz, but dang, the whole point of being married is to work together through things as a team and to continuously fall back in love with one another. Thanks again to this great group for all the insights. I know I will likely sound like a broken record, but these forums have been great to vent this stuff. Another member replies, honestly, it doesn't really make sense, and I think we can drive ourselves crazy by trying to figure out and understand the whys. That being said, I think one main reason is insecurity. Your ex was just an extremely insecure woman. Update: hello all. I wanted to give a quick update, especially to those folks who just went through their D-Day and are worried about what life may be like. I'm 6 weeks post-decree, and I have moved into my new place a month ago, working like a madman to get it set up into my sanctuary. I finally have it well furnished, and it feels like home. My home. My kids have now been over many times, and the rotation is working well. I've read many times here that kids are resilient, but until you see it firsthand, it is worrisome. I'm happy to report they are handling things pretty well, and we have our own fun at Dad's house, and they have told me many times they love being over. As for me, it's initially been weird having some newfound freedom, but I found making to-do lists and daily, weekly, long-term goals is helping a lot. I was initially sad, but keeping busy keeps that away. I'm focused only on self-improvement at the moment. I thought about putting myself back on the scene, but truthfully, I have no interest. So I'm keeping focused on home improvement, fitness, and my kids. Someone commented on one of my posts that getting out of the house was like being underwater and coming up for air, and they were right. As for the cheating ex, I keep it cordial, but that's it. No sign of the greatest emotional connection affair partner yet. What the F, but who cares? I'll just say tonight I sat outside, had a few beers and a cigar, and enjoyed the peace and tranquility of my property. And thought getting the heck away from the situation my ex put me in was the right thing. To those at the beginning and doubting leaving, I get it. The toughest thing and heartbreaking is a kick in the junk, but making the decision to eject a cheater out was the only right decision, and I only feel with time it will get better. Cheers, everyone. Update hi all, another update from AC 496. Once again, thank you all to the wonderful people for their comments and support. It's now month 2 of being on my own, and my house is coming together quite nicely. My kids have been doing very well and making memories, and I have some fun trips planned in the near future. As per the usual advice, I have kicked my weight training and dieting into the next gear and furnished my home gym with some better equipment and also been hitting the heavy bag very regularly. It must be working. In my monthly therapy sessions, my counselor noticed I was putting on weight in the right places, and she said it's great the progress she is seeing mentally and physically. So, with a little affirmation, things are going in the right direction. I have not bothered to date. Look, at this point it's early on, and I'm just enjoying the free time, new projects, and time with friends. So to the point of the post, I'm sure everyone keeps wondering, has crappy luck hit crappy people? Well, I don't have the wonderful post to detail the destruction of OMB or the ex-wife just yet. However, it's odd as the greatest romance ever hasn't been revealed at all, and OMB is still a secret. I wanted to ask why this could be. Is my ex-wife just playing image management and waiting to reveal all at a time that looks better? But isn't the thrill of the affair dead now that they can't sneak around? I'm no longer around, so I just found it odd. I have a feeling they are still communicating. She makes it obvious she is by hiding her phone still if I'm around during kids' activities. But why? It's like you wanted this. You snuck around and claimed this was the most amazing thing ever. Why not blast that out now that the horrible ex-husband is gone? Has this happened to anyone else with their ex and affair partner? One person responds, "Mate, you probably shouldn't waste time trying to figure out what is going on inside a crazy person's brain. There could be dozens of reasons, but who knows? And mainly, who cares?" OP replies, "I think the comment is right. Don't waste your time thinking about your ex and her affair partner. What she does doesn't concern you anymore. It's really none of your business. Maintain course. Update hi all. I'm almost to the 6-month mark post-divorce and nearly to the year past D-Day. It's been cathartic to post, but I know a lot of folks have followed my journey, commented, messaged, given hope, etc., and like many others, posted along the journey to give the unfortunate new folks here some ray of light that despite the darkness you have stepped in, there is another side. I hope I continue to help in whatever small way I can to anyone in need. I greatly appreciate the support I got and in kind would always love to return the favor. On that note, 6 months past D-Day and there is a lot of positive news. My house is furnished in a home, my kids are comfortable in the routine and love coming over, and have made some neighborhood friends. I'm beyond thankful that the little ones manage this process so well and they just understand there is dad time and mom time and no complaints or tears. Outside of them being here, I have immersed myself into a crap ton of home improvements. The house I moved into was occupied by an older divorced gentleman, and some stuff got left to the wayside. But I look at it as an opportunity to make it my own. Along with that, I furnished a home gym in my house with everything I need and can say I'm getting my workouts and boxing in 4 times a week and getting my body back to where I need it to be. Through this whole ordeal, I also went through a major career change internally to where I work and somehow managed to not mess anything up. But instead, I've gotten kudos. I've kept my situation private, a raise, and plenty of exposure to get my career trajectory moving up. Yes, I still struggle daily with mental health and focus, but I manage it with therapy and workouts, and things are getting better. I think less and less of my ex-wife each day, and each small step is a relief. As for her, well, she's still in la-la land, but I can only say we co-parent decently well. I gray rock the heck out of her let's be friends but keep us strictly to kids, and it's been cordial. I'm sure anyone who has followed my story has wondered about the saga of OMB. All I can say is the world's greatest love story hasn't gone live, but my kids have made me aware recently he has been around in a small capacity. I have to laugh a little as it's now 6 months past D-Day, and they are still sneaking around. All great hallmarks of a long-lasting, trusting relationship guaranteed to stand the test of time. I've come to terms with whatever is going to happen will happen, and at this point, I am lucky to be away from a person that is willing to lie to their most trusted partner's face and not feel an ounce of remorse. And I have a solid chance at building an even better life than before. Good riddance and good luck. Anyways, that is all, and yet another big thanks to all those that follow and comment, message, send rays of hope. I will keep updating and supporting as always. Update: Hi y'all, thought I'd pass on the thoughts of a good conversation I had with a buddy last night over many beers. It's amazing sometimes how the world's problems can be solved on a Friday night. For context, my buddy also got divorced 7 years ago, and his circumstances are eerily similar to mine. Even our exes have the same birthday. I have mentioned in previous posts recently, but the grand reveal of OMB and my ex is slowly taking form. I am low contact with my ex, but my kids make comments and it's hard not to get hurt, whatever. Anyways, my buddy noticed I was a bit frustrated and said this, and it helped me a lot. Dude, think about their lives, 2 cheaters getting together, and think about how crappy, low-value turd he is for manipulating a married woman with kids. Now look at it this way, they have to make it work, no matter how bad it becomes. You or I can meet women, and if it's not good, we move on. No problem, no worry, they're stuck. He has to be in your old house knowing you built that, has to deal with your kids and inherits your selfish ex and in-laws. But they are stuck, or else they look stupid. Can you imagine that kind of hell? But you're free. I stewed on that, and this morning it really helped to realize that. What a horrid future to have to look forward to. Anyways, I wanted to pass this thought and also ask if others came to this conclusion or sought an action. Thank you to you awesome people. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Trying to play house in a home that an affair partner never built, a home that he helped to destroy. Update: affair partner is invited to my kid's birthday. Hi all, it's me here. A big thanks to this lovely group, as always. I have something to get off my chest. For those that remember my saga, I've been progressing well, and I have some big updates coming soon, as I like to post positive things in my journey to help those in their journey. But for now, I'm in need of advice. Background: my daughter's birthday is coming up this weekend. I already celebrated last weekend with my family and had a small thing, nothing crazy. My daughter loved her presents and cake. Well, the ex-wife is having her usual look at how awesome I am party this weekend. I did get an invite, but I just found out the other day that good old OMB, the affair partner, is confirmed going to be there. I called out my ex-wife, saying this was a pretty crappy thing to do, but she didn't reply. Better yet, the ex-wife's co-workers and family and friends who knew about the affair will be there. And the party is at my old house, enemy territory. This is just horrid overall, as it's my daughter's party after us divorcing, and I can't help but feel it's a setup. This is lose-lose. And after talking with some other supportive members here, this feels like entering a pit of vipers. The only thing I can think of is going in dressed well, fresh haircut, and showing off my new physique. Hey, I've been doing the work and staying a little while, but either way, I just don't like this. I feel this is super manipulative of the ex-wife. She knows exactly how she is playing this and wants me to do something petty. Any advice is appreciated. Edit: wow, the response has been awesome. You guys are all awesome. I will try and respond to each and every one when my day calms down. Here's a response from the community: don't go. You already had your party with your daughter and have celebrated with her, and it sounds like she enjoyed it. That's all that counts. Tell your ex-wife you don't associate with homewreckers, plural, and you'll separate the parties from now on to avoid cross-contamination. Ultimately, it's up to you. You can choose to go and be the person you are today, the person who has grown so much since the whole debacle. You would be showing up as a person who your ex-wife can never live up to. It does seem like a very toxic environment to put yourself in, but if you feel you're above it all and it can't faze you, then go. She might not even expect you to come. It might have just been to hurt you in hopes that she'd get the upper hand on you. Anyways, you shouldn't feel obligated to go, and you've already celebrated with your daughter, so I'm sure she'd understand. Final update. Hey everyone, I wanted to thank the massive amount of support I got on my post from earlier this week. Since the beginning of this saga, this community has been my lifeboat and savior with advice to get me through all of this. Thank you all. It truly means the world to me. As for the juicy update, well, this is a good one. So, I initially told the ex-wife that I'd be joining. What I didn't do was tell her I'd changed my mind. I waited until Saturday morning to pop by the house and drop off my daughter's card and present. Well, unbeknownst to me, the kids were dropped off at Grandma and Grandpa's house for the morning, and as I drove up into the driveway in my sports car, I may add none other than OMB's turd wagon was on the side of the road. I strolled into the backyard quietly with a smile and surprised both the ex-wife and OMB as they were putting up decorations. The look of utter terror was on both their faces, and I shit you not, OMB didn't look me in the eyes once but was like, "Oh hey man, Honestly, when I look at both of them, I didn't feel the anger but just a sense of how sad you both are. Good luck together, is that gross? I kept my composure and just said, I'm here to give my daughter her present, but I won't be joining. The ex-wife was shocked, and I swear in the nicest voice I've ever heard in my life she darn near pleaded for me to join. I said, thanks, but no thanks. I will go to your parents' place to give my daughter her gift, and parted ways. I did give a, hey, see you later, bro, to OMB before strolling out, head held high. Not more than 3 minutes later, I got a phone call from the ex-wife again pleading to come to the party, but I held my ground and politely refused. A few minutes later, I dropped off the gift, went into the ex-in-laws for a few minutes, played with my kids, and said my goodbyes, all very kindly and not mentioning the situation. As for me, I kept myself busy tending to my house. I got a good workout in, much needed after a break, and I went out on a date. Ultimately, it was kind of a bust, but she was nice, and at least it was a distraction. My daughter called me today and thanked me for my gift, but she didn't ask why I wasn't there, so like everyone said. She was so busy she didn't pay attention. Oh, there it is. I know if I would have gone, I would have set myself back a ton and for nothing. Instead, she told everyone I'd be there, and with me a no-show and OMB there. I'm absolutely certain people put 2 and 2 together on why. Now I can go about my weekend not feeling like I'm mentally exhausted and do some fun things. Thank you again, everyone. Excellent. That was definitely a sign of growth, OP. Well done. I think you needed that. Update. Hey, everyone. This is going to be a short but rather humorous update to my previous posts. The outreach was incredible. Thank you all for your advice, and I'm still smiling from the rope-a-dope I pulled last week. I had a really good week since then. Anyways, here's your bit of humor. Some background. Since after D-Day, if those that have followed my saga may remember, my in-laws dropped me like a hot potato. I get it, blood is thicker than water. However, I have had one member of my extended family reach out, and we regularly hang out. He is truly a man of character. Well, I got a text on Saturday during the party. Hey man, let's grab some beers this week. Your presence is missed here. Fast forward to the other day, we meet, start consuming beers, and get down to business. He first starts talking about the awkward sideshow the party was with, people clearly looking at their feet at the situation. Apparently, OMB was not introduced to anyone. The ex-wife was deliberately apart from him during the party and was mostly directing him on things to do. And the in-laws didn't bother to talk to him and sat with themselves looking pretty annoyed. He clearly was a fish out of water and actually went inside most of the time and avoided most everyone. It was also a quiet comment among some of the in-laws, aunts, uncles side of things that this party is classless. I swear I'm heading toward indifference, but I just laughed my ass off. My absence was well understood, and my earlier gift giving to my daughter was also known. So it seems like the family had full understanding of my absence. Mission accomplished. Anyways, that is my Friday humor. For those new to your own bad situation, I cannot stress enough, taking the high road, acting with dignity and class, and just moving toward living the best life. It's not always the most satisfactory course of action, but like weight training, the results take time but are worth it. Happy Friday, y'all. Another response, you're on the right track, OP. You've grown and learned so much about yourself in this time, and you're exactly right. The best, most noble thing you can do is move forward and live your best life. Getting over this will take time. Soon, you won't even give it a second thought. Wishing you all the best, OP. This high road that you're on will bring you much happiness. What do you make of all this? What would you have done in OP's situation? What would you have needed to hear? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.
Story 4.
Seated at my desk, I checked my watch. It was almost 4. Soon I'd head home to kick off the weekend. This one was extra special, marking 20 years since I married Katie. I couldn't wait to whisk her away for a romantic weekend at our lake house. I picked up Katie's photo, a cherished gift from years ago, reminding me of our love. By the way, I'm Thomas West, but you can call me Tom. Katie and I fell in love in high school and tied the knot shortly after graduation. She insisted on waiting until our wedding day for closeness. And she was right. It made our honeymoon unforgettable. My parents were thrilled for us, giving me $100,000 and keys to a townhouse to start. Dad explained it was just the beginning of a $5 million trust fund he set up after my birth. He rarely spoke of my biological mom, who passed when I was young, remarrying soon after. Rejected from the military due to diabetes, I pursued college with Katie. We dreamed of our futures until Jim, our son, arrived earlier than planned. Despite challenges, Katie became a teacher while I entered the business world, joining Writer Industries. When I shared the news with Dad, he seemed proud but distant. I sensed something was amiss, but I refrained from pressing him. That's why I ultimately left the corporate world behind. For the next 16 years, life followed a typical routine. We worked, cared for our family, and enjoyed annual vacations. Due to time constraints, I quit martial arts classes about 5 years into marriage. Though Dad suggested exploring career options, I didn't dwell on it. Overall, Katie and I were content, despite the usual marital ups and downs. However, recently, I noticed changes in Katie's behavior. Initially, I attributed her mood shifts to the end of the school year and her reduced workload. She seemed withdrawn and occasionally sharp with me. I tried discussing it, but she brushed it off. Meanwhile, I was in the running for a VP position competing with Alex Marlowe. Keeping the news to myself, I didn't think it influenced her behavior. Then it hit me. Our son Jim's graduation and acceptance to West Point might be causing her anxiety about an empty nest. To lift her spirits, I planned a surprise anniversary getaway. As I pondered this, my secretary's call interrupted. It was about a meeting with Jake Henderson, the CEO, likely regarding a promotion. I rose from my desk, tidied my tie in the bathroom mirror, and headed to the elevator, ensuring my smartphone was set to record the upcoming meeting. Arriving on the 15th floor, home to the company's top brass, I made my way to Henderson's suite, where his assistant Brenda welcomed me. "Mr. Henderson is ready for you, Mr. West," she said, her grin piquing my curiosity. Henderson's voice invited me inside as I entered his office, taking a seat opposite him. Harvey, one of Henderson's guards, poured me bourbon, a gesture of familiarity with my preferences. Henderson, relaxed in demeanor, took a sip of his drink before addressing me with a smile. After exchanging pleasantries, Henderson praised my politeness and inquired about my family. I assured him all was well, mentioning our son's recent departure for West Point and our upcoming 20th anniversary celebration. "Married for 2 decades?" Jake inquired, offering congratulations. "I called you here not to mess with you. I like you. Let's discuss my upcoming promotion. It's between you and Marlowe. The board needs to gauge your flexibility, your response to stress, and your dedication to our goals. Understand, a manager's day doesn't end at 5. "I get it," I replied. "What specifics does the board seek?" "They want to witness your reactions firsthand," Jake explained. "They've reviewed your records, but they need more." "I'm not sure I follow," I admitted. Jake grinned, sipping his bourbon. "You'll get it," he assured. "How's your marriage?" "Solid, Mr. Henderson," I affirmed, sipping my drink. "Why do you ask?" "If it's as strong as you claim, cancel your weekend plans," he instructed. "Your wife should understand." He signaled Harvey, who ushered in Lenny Jameson, accompanied by Katie. She wore a revealing dress, surprising me with her appearance. The dress barely covered her backside. Though she glanced my way, she seemed unaware of me. Observing her medicated state, I noticed something white in one nostril. "Katie," I addressed her. "What's going on? Why are you dressed like that?" She remained unresponsive, her eyes glazed. Turning to Henderson, I demanded clarification. "What's happening? Why is she here like this? She's clearly medicated. What did you give her?" Henderson chuckled, admitting to medicating her with a potent concoction. He gestured for Lenny to expose her further, revealing her bosom. I attempted to rise, but found myself paralyzed, realizing Harvey had medicated me too. Henderson's sinister grin widened as Lenny undressed Katie completely. Ignoring my protests, Henderson proceeded to engage in carnal acts with her, her glazed eyes betraying her medicated state. Furious and struggling against Harvey's grip, I glared at Henderson. "I'll eliminate you," I yelled. Henderson smirked. "Is that how you speak to family?" he taunted. "And in front of your dear wife?" "She won't be my wife," I snapped. "And what do you mean by family?" Henderson revealed our shared parentage, shocking me. "That's not true," I protested. "Why?" "For many reasons," he explained. "Firstly, as CEO, I have executive privilege. Secondly, I've always wanted to dominate my younger brother. You didn't think I hired you for your skills, did you?" He revealed his calculated manipulation, claiming it was a long-term plan to reclaim what he believed was rightfully his. "Have you planned this all along?" I demanded. "Of course," he admitted. "It's the long game. Now your fate and your wife's are in my hands." He outlined his intention to seek revenge for past grievances, shocking me with his twisted motives. "You're sick," I accused. Henderson shrugged. "Maybe," he conceded. "It is what it is." "Here's the plan, Tom," he began. "No divorce. Your wife now serves me, Financially and personally, she's my exclusive companion, accessible anytime, anywhere. I'm whisking her to New York for a board presentation. Relax. She'll return, albeit perhaps disheveled. You won't get away with this, I retorted. He chuckled. Done deal, he countered. You're powerless. He signaled Lenny, who struck me, apologizing. Just business, Mr. West. I awoke in a hospital bed, machines humming around me. Dad, exhausted, sat nearby. A nurse tended to me, offering ice. Dad explained I'd been unconscious 4 days since Friday night. 4 days? I echoed. It's Tuesday, Dad confirmed. You were dumped at the ER. What happened? He asked, concern etched on his face. Later, upon the doctor's arrival, I acknowledged him. Good afternoon, Mr. West. I'm Dr. Pierce, he greeted. I'm glad to see you with us again. How do you feel? It's like I was hit by a truck, I replied. Everything hurts. I have no doubt, he concurred, noting my injuries. You've been pretty banged up. Nothing broken but some bruised ribs and a small bruise. We were worried about a concussion. After his examination, he outlined the plan. We'll do x-rays and keep you overnight for observation. If all goes well, you can go home tomorrow. My dad called the police, I mentioned. They want to speak with you, he informed me. Afterward, Detective Blackstone introduced himself, eager to hear my story. I recounted what I could, then remembered my phone. Did you find my phone? I asked my father. Yes, he said, handing it over. I noticed unfamiliar text messages and decided to check them later. I found the audio recording and played it for the detective, capturing everything, including the sounds of the assault. I focused on what occurred afterward. Okay, get him out of here, Henderson ordered the guards. Take him to the hospital and say you found him there. Got it? Got it, boss, Lenny affirmed. We heard movement as they dragged me, then their conversation as they placed me in the car. Careful, Harvey cautioned. I don't want blood on the seats. He's a real pain, Lenny chuckled. Aren't they all? Harvey laughed before the recording ended. We have hospital security footage, Ryan explained. They threw you out of the car before driving off. EMTs found you and brought you inside. The car is registered to Ryder Industries. I informed HR, Dad added. Henderson already put you on sick leave for a week. Any word from Katie? I inquired. Dad shook his head. None, he replied. I've been trying to reach her, but no luck. We'll issue a bulletin, Ryan declared. Do you have a recent photo? Yes, I confirmed, retrieving my pictures. Okay, he agreed. Send this to me along with the audio recording. I'll forward the photo to the NYPD and issue a warrant for Henderson and his thugs. Do you want to press charges? Absolutely, I affirmed. Definitely. Then we'll proceed, he assured. Just relax and let the professionals handle it, he advised. Okay, detective, I acknowledged gratefully. Thank you. We'll keep in touch, Ryan promised, handing me his card. Call if you remember anything else. After he left, I turned to my father. Is what Henderson said true? I inquired. Yes and no, he replied. His father had his way with your biological mother, but she was already pregnant. After that, I filed for divorce and an alienation of affection lawsuit against Henderson. We couldn't do a DNA test back then, but we all have the same blood type. Dad said he wouldn't bore me with all the details, but things at home worsened. My biological mother turned to drinks and medicates, eventually dying from an overdose 6 months after I was born. Damn, I reacted. The lawsuit against Henderson and Ryder was ongoing, Dad revealed. But we settled out of court, using the money to set up your trust fund. I couldn't disclose any details due to the agreement. About a year later, I met Patricia, Dad continued. She loved you from the start, insisting on adopting you after we got married. Unable to have children, she considered you her own. So how did you know I was really your son? I asked. Remember the motorcycle accident when you were 16? He queried. Yeah, I recalled. Well, he elaborated, after I was injured, I requested a DNA test at the hospital to confirm our relationship. And? I pressed. The results showed over a 99% likelihood that I'm your father, he explained. It means your biological mother was pregnant with you before Henderson's involvement. For me, you're my dad no matter what, I assured him, bringing a smile to his face. What happened to Henderson? I inquired. Dad informed me he died from a stroke around the time I entered college. His son stepped up as the new general director. I'd hoped the younger Henderson had learned from his father's mistakes, but I was mistaken, Dad explained. That's why you weren't thrilled about me joining there, right? I questioned. He nodded. Yes, he affirmed. I wished to tell you, but couldn't. I pray I have it now. It's not on you, Dad, I reassured. I can't fathom how Katie could fall for his nonsense after all this time. It's baffling, I remarked. She may have been medicated, but something feels off, I pondered. Why was she there and in that attire? Just then, a knock sounded at the door. Yes, I called out. Brenda, our assistant, peeked in. May I come in? She asked timidly. Certainly, Brenda, I welcomed her. What's up? She entered, holding a vase of flowers and a large card. We all pitched in and got this for you, she explained, placing the flowers on the nightstand. She handed me the card. I'm really sorry about all of this, Brenda expressed. Did you know what Henderson planned? I inquired. I knew he had something with your wife, she admitted. But not this, she added, pointing to me. What went down? I probed. That morning he gave me a company card, told me to fetch your wife, said she was expecting me. He instructed me to take her out, get her a revealing dress, and then to a salon, Brenda disclosed. He also insisted that she get a bikini wax. Aria completed a Brazilian wax, Brenda recounted. I had a pretty good idea of what he meant. This isn't the first time he's pulled something like this. So your boss is using you to groom his girls? Dad questioned. Brenda's face flushed red, and she wisely averted her gaze. Did you know he medicated her? Dad pressed. He medicates all the women he sleeps with, Mr. West, she admitted. He loves to experiment. Has he ever medicated you? Dad inquired. She nodded. One time, she disclosed. He gave me just a small amount, she continued. Said it was only a quarter of the normal dose. Kept me going for about an hour. Do you know how much he gave my wife? I interjected. She shook her head. No, I don't, she admitted. He mentioned giving Katie 3 times the usual amount, I informed her. Her eyes widened, and she covered her face with her hands. Oh my God, she exclaimed. I had no clue. Your poor wife must have been out of her mind for hours. I bet she didn't even realize you were there. This stuff really messes you up. When I walked into your office, you knew what was going to happen, didn't you? I probed. She nodded solemnly. I knew, she confirmed. But I didn't expect him to be so cruel to you, honestly. Do you know where Henderson and my wife are now? I asked. Last I heard, they're still in New York, she replied. Would you be willing to talk to the police, Dad? I asked. I'll do whatever I can to help, she promised. She glanced back at me with tears in her eyes. I'm truly sorry about this, Mr. West. Just one more thing, Brenda, I added. What's going on? She inquired. Did my wife have any idea what was going to happen? I questioned. She nodded. I'm pretty sure she had an idea, Mr. West, she replied. I know Mr. Henderson has been in touch with her quite often in the past month or so, inviting her out to dinner multiple times. They've had long lunches. I'm not sure if anything happened between them or not. He never disclosed it to me. But do you think they were involved? I pressed. It's highly probable, but I can't say for certain. I'm not privy to all the details, she admitted. You seem to assist Henderson with things like this frequently, correct? Dad inquired. Quite frequently, she admitted quietly. So you condone his behavior? He probed. She shook her head. You misunderstand, she clarified. I'm a single mother with a child who has special needs, and Mr. Henderson compensates me generously for my assistance and my discretion. Well, your silence is what led to my son ending up in the hospital this time, young lady, he retorted, his patience waning. She took a step back as he glared at her. Mr. West, I truly didn't know they intended injury to your son. I would have warned him if I had known, she defended herself. Dad reclined in his chair, silently observing her. Brenda, the police detective will be reaching out to you regarding this matter, I informed her. I advise you to be available and fully cooperate. Understand? She nodded. I understand, Mr. West, she affirmed. All right, I said, and please convey my gratitude to everyone for the flowers and card. I will, she promised, dabbing at a tear in her eye. Once again, I'm sorry. With that, she turned and exited the room. After the door closed, I turned to my father. That sheds some light on things, I remarked. Katie has been acting a bit off since school ended. Initially, I thought it was because Jim had gone to West Point. We'll uncover the truth, he assured. Another knock sounded and a hospital attendant wheeled in a food cart. Dad grinned and rose. Dinner time, he announced. Better head home before Mom sends out a search party, he joked. Take care, son. Rest up. See you in the morning. Thanks, Dad, I replied. Say hi to Mom for me and tell her I love her. Will do, son, he affirmed. And hey, love you too. We fist bumped and he exited. The attendant smirked at Dad's departure, then served my meal. It smelled decent, and hunger gnawed at me after days without eating. I devoured the meatloaf and potatoes, relishing the mushroom sauce. Though not up to Mom's or Katie's caliber, it sufficed. Even the broccoli, which I usually avoid, tasted all right. After finishing dessert, I sipped coffee and checked my texts. 4 messages awaited, each with a video. The first, from Friday, read, "Enjoy. Bet you wish you weren't here." Unfamiliar, I hesitantly opened it. Katie stood before grinning men, her dress akin to the one Henderson forced her to wear. Recognizing the board members, I braced for the worst. They stripped her and she complied. Anguish brewed. It'd bolster the lawsuit. Summoning courage for the next message from Saturday morning, regret filled me as Katie frolicked with men. The third, late Saturday, depicted her with multiple partners. The fourth, from early Sunday, diverged. Katie and Henderson stared into the camera. Her bloodshot eyes and dark circles revealed torment. Henderson sneered. "This is your wife's new life," he taunted. Turning to Katie, he commanded, "Tell him who I am, honey." "Jake Henderson is my master," she stated, her voice devoid of any emotion. "That's correct," he confirmed. "And what's your new role?" Henderson inquired. "I am my master's undressed love-making toy," she declared. "I engage in carnal activities with whomever he commands, whenever he commands, and however he commands, as frequently as he commands." "Very well," Jake acknowledged. "And convey to that idiot that he won't ever touch you again, you betrayed man," Katie asserted, pointing a finger at the camera. "You'll never lay a hand on me again." Henderson chuckled at her remark before addressing the camera. "And remember, don't cause trouble, or the next time I have Harvey and Lenny talk to you, you might not wake up. See you later, loser. Goodbye." The video concluded. A surge of emotions washed over me. Hatred, anger, sadness, disappointment. I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed and heard. It seemed evident that he had manipulated her. I glanced at the wedding ring on my finger. It held no significance anymore, so I removed it and tossed it onto the nightstand. Perhaps I could sell it for a few bucks at a pawn shop. At that instant, I was resolved to divorce Katie. I didn't care if Jake approved or not. Furthermore, I was determined to make him suffer. But how? Alienation of affection? Lawsuits were a possibility when my father divorced, but not anymore. I entertained thoughts of damaging that despicable fool, but in all honesty, he wasn't worth jeopardizing my freedom for. I contacted Ryan and briefed him on the videos and Henderson's threats. He requested that I forward them to him and assured me he'd be in touch. Following his instructions, I powered off my phone. I contemplated reaching out to Kathy, but concluded it would be futile. I placed my phone on the nightstand and turned on the TV, hoping to distract myself from what I had just witnessed. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep and found myself dreaming of happier times when I had a loving and faithful wife. The next morning, I awoke to the sounds of nurses bustling about my room, checking my vital signs and monitoring the equipment. 2 of them escorted me to the radiology department for additional x-rays before returning me to my room. Once back, an orderly brought me breakfast. Shortly after I finished my bacon and egg breakfast, Dr. Pierce entered my room with good news. "Everything went smoothly, and you're clear to go home," he informed me. He prescribed medication for the pain and provided a set of instructions. "Discharge paperwork will take about an hour, so why not give your parents a call to come pick you up?" he suggested. "By the time they arrive, you should be ready to go. Take care of yourself and make sure to schedule a follow-up appointment with your regular doctor within a week." "Thank you, Doc," I replied. "I'll do that." After he left, I contacted my parents and shared the positive news. About an hour later, they arrived at my room. Mom enveloped me in a hug, tears shimmering in her eyes. "Oh, Tom, I'm so sorry you had to go through this," she expressed. "How are you feeling?" "Could be better, Mom," I admitted. "Well, I whipped up some of my lasagna for you and kept it warm in the oven," she informed me. I always adored my mother's lasagna. It was rich with layers of cheese, mushrooms, and meat filling, a taste sensation unlike any other. I looked at her with gratitude. "Thank you, Mom," I said sincerely. "Your lasagna never fails to brighten my day." "I'm glad, son," she replied. "Your father filled me in on what happened, and I'm furious. I have half a mind to give that woman a piece of my mind." Dad and I exchanged a knowing glance and chuckled. There was no doubt in my mind that if she were here, Mom would have taken Katie to task. "Any updates?" Dad inquired. I briefed him on the videos and Henderson's threat. "Videos?" Mom questioned. "Trust me, Mom, you don't want to see them," I cautioned. "They're beyond awful." "I guess you'll need the name of a good divorce attorney," Dad remarked. Yeah, I agreed. There's no way to overlook what she did or is probably still doing. Plus, I need to break it to Jim. It's going to devastate him. All right, I'll make some calls, Dad promised. Just then, a nurse entered with my discharge papers and instructions. Insisting I use a wheelchair, she wheeled me out while Mom and Dad walked alongside. At the loading dock, I slid into the back seat. Dad drove us home, stopping at a pharmacy so I could pick up my pain medication. I noticed my car parked in the driveway when we arrived. Your mom and I retrieved your car from Ryder on Saturday, Dad informed me. Katie's car is still in the garage. We entered the house, and its emptiness without Katie became painfully apparent. The aroma of lasagna wafting from the oven lifted my spirits a tad. I hope you don't mind, but I tidied up a bit yesterday afternoon, Mom mentioned. It was getting a bit stuffy. Not at all, Mom, I assured her. Thanks for everything. Just then, we spotted a dark sedan parked outside. I recognized Ryan stepping out of the driver's side, accompanied by another man in a suit. I welcomed them in. Detective Blackstone, I greeted. Please, come in. I held the door as they entered. Ryan shook my hand and I introduced him to Mom. Can we offer you gentlemen something to drink? Mom offered. Coffee? Soda? Ryan declined. No, ma'am, but thank you, he replied, then turned to the other man. Mr. West, this is Detective Hawthorne from the NYPD Homicide Department. I was taken aback momentarily, but extended my hand to Hawthorne. Please, have a seat, I invited, and we settled in. Homicide? I echoed. Hawthorne nodded, presenting a photograph. Katie's face was recognizable, but she appeared lifeless, her complexion unsettling. Can you confirm the identity of the woman in this photo? Hawthorne inquired. That looks like my wife, Kathy, I confirmed. But she was alive early Sunday morning. I have a video. Did she have any distinguishing marks or tattoos? Hawthorne probed. Yes, a small dolphin tattoo on her upper right thigh, I recalled. She got it on a dare 15 years ago. Hawthorne glanced at Ryan and then back at me, his expression somber. I regret to inform you, Mr. West, but it appears that your wife may have been homicide, he stated. Homicide? I exclaimed. How? When? That's what we're investigating, Mr. West, Hawthorne replied. The coroner is still examining her, but the initial assessment suggests she died from a massive heart attack. But wouldn't that rule out slaying? I questioned. Well, her body was discovered in a shallow grave in Central Park yesterday afternoon, Hawthorne disclosed. In my experience, such findings typically indicate foul play. We're awaiting toxicology results, which may provide more insight. What more can you tell us? I recounted the entire ordeal to them. Ryan took notes while listening attentively, though he had heard the details before. Retrieving my phone, I played the audio recording and then the video for them. Mom, overwhelmed, burst into tears, and Dad ushered her out of the room, leaving me alone with the detectives. After they finished viewing the footage, I shared Brenda's account. They made notes and exchanged glances before addressing me. This clarifies the bruises and condition of Mrs. West's body, Hawthorne remarked. Turning to me, he continued. This woman, Harris, is she on duty today? To my knowledge, yes, I replied. We'll need to speak with her, Hawthorne directed at Ryan, who nodded in agreement. He then turned to me again. What do you know about the Medicades Henderson mentioned? The super ecstasy? He inquired. Not much beyond what Brenda told me and what I experienced, I admitted. The doctor mentioned that the substance they used on me had already left my system. And Henderson and his associates? Any insights there? Ryan pressed. Henderson's private jet departed from New York last night. According to the pilot's filed flight plan, they were returning here, but there's no record of the plane landing, I explained. Ryder has branches nationwide. He could be anywhere. Excellent, Hawthorne remarked, turning to Ryan. We'll need to involve the FAA and possibly the FBI. I have a contact at the local FAA office, Ryan offered. We can head there after executing a search warrant on Ryder. Hawthorne nodded in agreement. What's the next step? I inquired. If your accounts are accurate, this could escalate into a federal case since Henderson transported your wife across state lines, Ryan stated. We're considering multiple charges against him, including slaying and potentially kidnapping. In the meantime, Hawthorne added, my team will continue their investigation and recover your wife's body. This process may take several days. We'll also detain the individuals seen in the video for questioning. I nodded in acknowledgement. Ryan glanced at Hawthorne before addressing me. I'd like to speak with Mr. West privately, if you don't mind, he requested. Hawthorne nodded at me. Of course, I'll step out to make a few calls. I'll be just outside, he said before exiting the room. He glanced at me before proceeding. "I sincerely apologize for all of this, Mr. West," he conveyed. "Thank you, Detective," I responded, shaking his hand. After he departed, Ryan redirected his attention to me. "Mr. West, Tom," he began. "I wanted to have a private conversation with you regarding what transpired with your wife." "I appreciate that, Ryan," I acknowledged. "I'll spare you the graphic details," Ryan began. "But based on what I've gathered, your wife's final 48 hours were utterly harrowing. I consulted with a medical examiner back east, and he corroborated my suspicions. I don't believe your wife consented to what was done to her. I suspect she was subjected to a brutal assault. She was sufferized and exploited by a group of power-hungry individuals." "Look, Ryan, I understand your intentions, and I'm grateful," I responded. "I truly do. But the reality is Katie and Henderson were involved for about a month before this incident. I'm not entirely sure what transpired between them, but I have a fairly good idea. Katie could have put an end to all of this prior to last Friday, but she chose not to. I don't understand her actions, and now I never will." "I understand," Ryan murmured. He retrieved a business card from his pocket and handed it to me. "I suggest you consult with Dr. Harmon. She's highly reputable. Give her a call." "All right, I'll do that. Thank you," I acknowledged. "I'm concerned that Henderson's associates might return for you," he expressed. "I would assign officers to protect you, but unfortunately, our resources are limited. However, I'll instruct the dispatcher to increase patrols in your area. Do you own a firearm?" "No," I replied. He nodded. "All right," he stated. "In that case, always keep your doors and windows secured. If you suspect anything, dial emergency immediately." "I'll remember that, Ryan," I assured him. Just then, Hawthorne re-entered the house. "I just spoke with your partner Johnson," he informed. "He's wanted nationwide, and we have search warrants ready to execute." Ryan nodded and stood up. "We'll keep in touch, Tom," he said, shaking my hand. Hawthorne extended his hand. "I offer my condolences for your loss, Mr. West," he conveyed. "Thank you, Detective," I replied. After they departed, my parents returned and took a seat. "Are you going to be all right, son?" Dad inquired. "I think so, Dad," I replied. "I have a couple more calls to make, and I'm not particularly looking forward to them." In many ways, that's true. I needed to inform Jim about his mother's situation, and I also had to reach out to Katie's parents. "Understood?" Dad asked. "Understood. If you need anything, just give us a call, all right?" Dad reiterated. "I'll do that, Dad. Thanks," I affirmed. We exchanged embraces, and I watched them depart. I dialed Jim's cell phone and left a message, anticipating it might take some time for him to return my call. The next call on my agenda was one I dreaded. Kathy's father, retired Marine Colonel Bill Anderson, earned the moniker Bloody Bill for his heroic exploits in Afghanistan, allegedly dispatching multiple Taliban fighters with just a knife. His uniform boasted more ribbons and medals than I'd ever seen. He and Katie's mother, Alice, settled in the country after his military service. I hesitated to break the news of Katie's pass away to the colonel, but we had a good rapport, and he insisted I call him Dad. Summoning courage, I called him. "Anderson's residence," he answered. "It's me, Tom," I said. "Are you okay?" he asked, sensing my distress. "Not really, Dad," I replied. "Katie's dead." Shocked, he demanded details. After a brief explanation, he decided they'd visit at 4 p.m., adding a quip about civilian time. "Got it, Dad," I chuckled. "And I'll have coffee ready." With that, we hung up, and I sank into my chair, overwhelmed by grief. My world had crumbled, my marriage had faltered, and now Katie, the love of my life, was gone. Despite my disdain for her actions, I couldn't bear the thought of her pass away, unlike Henderson, who I viewed differently. I rose and indulged in my mom's comforting lasagna, a remedy that had always eased my troubles. Cleaning up afterward, I roamed the house, each corner triggering memories of Katie and our life together. Realizing I couldn't remain in this house, I resolved to sell it once everything settled, opting for something smaller. Discovering Katie's phone on the nightstand, I unlocked it with her familiar 4-digit code. Annoyingly, it happened at that moment. Examining her call log, I noticed repeated calls from Henderson and Brenda's workplace, particularly on Friday morning. Scanning her messages, I found an exchange with Henderson from a few months back, lacking significant context. Perusing her emails, I found nothing incriminating. Turning off the phone, I placed it back on the nightstand. Checking the time, I realized it was already 3:45 p.m. I had no clue how much time I had spent on Katie's phone. Knowing the colonel's punctuality, I headed to the kitchen and brewed fresh coffee, strong, just the way he preferred it. As the digital clock on the coffee pot struck 4 p.m., the doorbell chimed. I knew it was the colonel, so I welcomed him and Alice inside. Damn it, son, didn't anyone ever teach you to duck? The colonel exclaimed upon seeing my face. My father tried, but I don't think I ever fully grasped it. I half joked. Come in. As they entered, another car pulled into the driveway. I observed a tall, lanky man stepping out and approaching the door. I hope you don't mind, Bill mentioned. After what you told me, I took the liberty of calling for reinforcements. By then, the tall man had entered the house carrying a laptop bag and 2 more bags, leaving me wondering what was happening. Bill introduced him. Ron, this is my brother-in-law, Tom West, he said. Tom, meet Ron Wiseman. We served together in the Corps. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Wiseman, I greeted, shaking his hand. Please call me Ron, he insisted. I glanced at the colonel. Ron and his wife have experience dealing with individuals like Henderson, the colonel explained. Plus, he possesses certain skills that could prove valuable. What kind of skills? I inquired. I'm an accountant by profession, Ron disclosed. An accountant? I echoed. Ron grinned as he set his bags down. Well, I'm a bit more than just that, he elaborated. I'm involved with a special task force and have access to information that, as the colonel mentioned, could be quite useful. I see, I responded. Well, please have a seat and I'll fetch us some coffee. Alice joined me in the kitchen and we returned with 4 large cups of coffee. Hot, fresh, black, and strong. Just how the colonel preferred it. Alice handed him his cup, and after a cautious sip, he remarked, Not bad, Tom. Thank you. Now why don't you bring us all up to speed? I recounted the events up until Ryan and Hawthorne left the house earlier. You mentioned video recordings? The colonel inquired. Yes, I confirmed. They're quite disturbing. I'd still like to see them, he insisted. Don't worry, after 30 years in the Corps, there's not much that Alice and I haven't seen. I retrieved my phone and played the videos for them. They watched all 4 before I returned the phone. Bill and Alice seemed visibly upset, but Ron remained composed, pausing this video at times to scrutinize the individuals involved. It's evident she was medicated, Alice remarked. Bill and Ron nodded in agreement. But with what exactly? I'm not certain, I admitted. Brenda Henderson's assistant mentioned something about super ecstasy or the like. And Henderson medicated you too? Ron inquired. Yes, I confirmed. But by the time I was treated at the hospital, it had already left my system. By then, Ron had set up his laptop and connected to the internet. Those 2 thugs who attacked you? He continued. Did you catch them on video? Ron inquired. Yes, I replied. I opened one of the videos and paused it so Ron could examine it closely. Those 2 big guys over there are Harvey Strauss and Lenny Jameson, I pointed out, indicating them in the footage. Can you send me these videos? Ron requested, providing his email address. Certainly, I agreed. I'll forward the videos to you. Ron confirmed receipt of the files and began analyzing them. You know those aren't their real names, Ron remarked. No, I wasn't aware, I admitted. What are their real identities? They're former criminals, Ron disclosed. They disappeared after their boss, James Brolin, also known as Jimmy the Weasel, was discovered homicide in his own bed. The authorities have been searching for them for quite some time. How long have they been working for Henderson? I believe it's been a couple of years now, I replied. Why do you ask? They've vanished around this time, Ron noted. Are you suggesting they've made Henderson a wanted man across the nation? Exactly, I confirmed. All right, Ron said, clicking his mouse. Let's see what we can dig up. I'll let this program run for a while. As Ron's program processed, we continued our conversation. So, here's the plan, the colonel interjected. After discussing further, Ron agreed to remain with me until these individuals were neutralized. I'm not comfortable with you being alone here while they're still out there, he expressed. Ron, keep me posted as soon as you get any updates on them. All right, I'll take it from there. Understood, Colonel, Ron replied. And what about you? I inquired of Bill. It's better if you're kept in the dark, son, he replied. Let's just say Marines handle our own business, and leave it at that. Don't worry. Henderson and his associates will face consequences one way or another. You mentioned you're off until Monday due to illness? Yes, I confirmed. What's your plan after this? He probed. I can't remain at Ryder after all this, I stated. I've decided to resign, giving 2 weeks' notice starting Monday. Additionally, I'm considering selling this house and downsizing. I can't blame you, he sympathized. Any update on when Katie's body will be released? It could be several days, according to what Hawthorne told me, I relayed. If you need assistance with final arrangements, don't hesitate to ask, he offered. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate it, I expressed. Bill rose, signaling the end of the meeting. Alice and Ron followed suit. We should head out, dear, Bill addressed Alice. Ron, keep me informed of any developments. Will do, Ron assured. Bill turned to me and embraced me, a gesture that took me by surprise. In all my years knowing him, I've never seen him hug another man. Everything will work out, son, he reassured me. Alice stepped forward after he released me and embraced me gently. I'm truly sorry for what happened, Tom, she comforted. Don't worry about a thing, all right? I won't, Mom, I assured her. Thank you for coming. You're welcome, she responded. And don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. Shortly after their departure, my phone rang. Seeing it was Jim, I answered and sat down beside him to recount the events. At first, he was taken aback by this news. Dad, that just doesn't sound like something she could do, Jim remarked. I know. It doesn't make any sense to me either, I concurred. Are there any clues as to why she did this? He inquired. No, son, I checked her phone and email, but there's nothing there, I explained. Maybe she has a burner phone somewhere, he suggested. A burner phone? I questioned. Yeah, one of those disposable gadgets you toss away after using pay-as-you-go minutes, Jim clarified. Perhaps she has one hidden that you haven't found yet. My mind immediately shifted to the videos they sent me. They originated from a number I didn't recognize. Maybe it was her burner phone. If so, then no one could trace where she is now. You might be onto something, I acknowledged. I hadn't considered that. We conversed a bit more, and Jim concluded by asking me to inform him when his mother's body would be released for burial. After the call, I mentioned the burner phone theory to Ron. That makes sense, he agreed. If you have the number, I'll see what I can uncover. I provided him with the number, and he initiated another program to trace it. A few minutes later, he had his answer. This number corresponds to a phone purchased here in the city, he reported. As you suspected, it's a burner phone. The number is registered to Ryder and was last detected Tuesday morning in NYC. There hasn't been any activity on it since you received the last video. Any idea where he might be now? I inquired. None, he replied. As far as we know, it was disassembled and disposed of in the river. He returned to his computer, prompting me to prepare a guest room upstairs since I didn't know how long he'd stay. He remained until Saturday, spending much time on the computer. While unaware of his activities, we've grown closer since his arrival on Wednesday. He disclosed being a Marine sniper now working for a federal private task force. Despite his background as a CPA, most of his work involved research. He shared tidbits about his and his wife Amy's interactions with executives, which intrigued me. The previous night, he requested if Amy could join for the weekend, to which I agreed. She arrived Saturday morning, and after introductions, they retreated to the guest room. Giving them space, I occupied myself in the garage for about an hour before returning inside. Ron and Amy were engrossed in something on his computer when I joined. Any updates? I inquired. Yes, affirmed Ron. Firstly, the FBI has taken over the investigation. Secondly, about half an hour ago, I received a solid hit on our targets. All three? I queried. Yeah, they're near Colorado Springs, Ron confirmed. I've already notified the colonel. Then he'll handle it himself. There's something else. What is it? I inquired. I was able to access the official autopsy report on your wife, he disclosed. What does it say? I pressed. According to the report, your wife did indeed suffer a massive heart attack from the chemicals Henderson administered. But that's not what ended her life, Ron revealed. They discovered soil particles in her lungs. What does that mean? I asked. It means she was still alive when they buried her, Ron stated. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Barely alive, but alive nonetheless. I'm sorry, there's more. More? I exclaimed in disbelief. There was also extensive bruising around her private parts, and a toxicology report revealed significant levels of various chemicals in her bloodstream, including ecstasy and cocaine. I'm sorry, Tom, but it appears the last hours of her life were brutal. I can't believe she willingly participated in all of this. What do you think happened? I questioned. From what I've gathered, Henderson and his cohorts likely had quite a wild party, he speculated. Your wife was so under the influence of what Henderson gave her that she lost control. At some point, she suffered a heart attack. Instead of seeking medical help, they likely presumed she was deceased, so they disposed of her by burying her. I sank into a chair, stunned by Ron's revelations. Amy approached and embraced me as tears streamed down my face. Henderson and his accomplices are wanted for slaying, conspiracy to commit slaying, the production and distribution of various controlled substances, and racketeering, among other charges, Ron disclosed. The other individuals in your videos have already been apprehended and charged, but Henderson is the primary target. What do you think his fate will be? I inquired. Ron shrugged. Who can say? He replied. One can only speculate about the workings of the courts these days. The next morning, I was awakened by my phone ringing. Glancing at my watch, I saw it was 4:30 a.m. I wondered who could be calling at such an hour. Answering, I heard a masked voice. Check your text messages, it instructed before hanging up. Opening the message, I found a video attached. In it, 3 undressed bound men were dumped in front of a brick building. Recognizing them as Henderson, Lenny, and Harvey, I watched as a sign was hung around Henderson's neck, confessing to Katie West's slaying. I pondered if the FBI would get involved. Finishing the video, I returned to sleep. 4 hours later, I descended to find Amy cooking breakfast in the kitchen. I hope you don't mind me trying my hand in your kitchen, she said. Ron gets cranky without his morning bacon. Not at all, I replied. I get a little cranky myself without bacon. Help yourself. After she finished, we all sat down to eat. As we finished, there was a knock at the door. Opening it, I found Ryan standing there. May I come in? He asked. Of course, I replied, ushering him in. Introducing him to Ron and Amy as friends of my father-in-law, I offered him coffee. No, I won't stay long, he declined. I just wanted to inform you that Henderson and 2 of his top accomplices were apprehended in Colorado Springs early this morning. That's good news, right? I inquired. Yes, he confirmed. They're talking. There are some questions about the circumstances of their capture, but I assume you're not privy to that. No, I'm not, I asserted. I've been here all night. Ron and Amy can vouch for that. Uh-huh, he responded. Well, I just wanted to keep you informed. Now I'll leave you to it. Take care of yourself. Thanks, Ryan, I expressed as he departed. Turning to Ron, I posed a question. You don't happen to know anything about this, do you? Don't ask, and I won't fib, he replied with a knowing grin. I still suggest giving your father-in-law a call to express gratitude. Nodding in agreement, I retrieved my phone. Anderson, Bill greeted upon answering. Dad, just wanted to inform you that the police paid me a visit, I relayed. Henderson and his cohort were apprehended in Colorado Springs. Well, that's a relief, he responded. Ron advised me to extend my thanks, I added. Did he indeed? Bill inquired. Yes, I confirmed. So I wanted to express my appreciation. You're welcome, son, he replied warmly. I heard you received a call last night. That's correct, I affirmed. That sign was quite the touch. Do you think it gave them a lead? His grin indicated agreement. I sure hope so, he said. We'll catch up soon, son. Take care of yourself. I will, Dad, I assured. Thank you. The next Monday, I resigned from work, receiving understanding but regretful farewells. Then, I visited a realtor to initiate the process of selling our longtime home, bracing myself for the emotional and logistical challenges. A week later, Katie's body was released by the New York medical examiner as her parents arranged her funeral. Despite conflicting emotions, I attended mainly to support Bill and Alice, who had been kind to me during this ordeal. Jim managed to take a break from West Point to join me at the funeral, where we shared memories and mourned together. I chose not to divulge Katie's actions to him, wanting to preserve his fond memories of her. Following the funeral, I consulted with a lawyer about potentially suing Ryder, as there seemed to be a strong case against Henderson and the board of directors given their legal troubles. The trial against Henderson and the involved board members felt endless. The U.S. attorney pursued the pass-away penalty for Henderson, while the defense filed numerous motions. I testified about my own experience and listened to others' testimonies. Brenda also testified, revealing that Katie wasn't the only sufferer of Henderson's medicating and exploitation. When questioned, Brenda admitted uncertainty about whether Katie and Henderson had an affair before the incident. Video evidence suggested Katie initially rejected Henderson's advances, but later seemed to consider them. Searches of Henderson's office and home uncovered evidence of Medicaid experimentation. Expert witnesses confirmed that many of the compounds he created were likely intended as date abduction medicates. During the trial, I finally got the full story of what happened to Katie. It turned out that Henderson had kept her alive over the weekend with medicates and drinks. At some point during their festivities, she experienced severe chest pain and collapsed unconscious. The men claimed they checked her but couldn't find a pulse. Instead of seeking immediate medical help, which was nearby, they assumed she was dead. After cleaning her up a bit, they placed her in a car trunk and buried her in Central Park. Under questioning by the U.S. attorney, none of them admitted to having CPR training or medical qualifications. Their fate was sealed when a medical examiner found soil in her lungs matching that of the burial site, indicating she was buried alive. Some jury members visibly reacted to this revelation. At the trial's conclusion, Jake, his two accomplices, and everyone involved in the weekend were found guilty on all charges. The judge opted against the pass-away penalty, sentencing Jake to life in prison, along with Lenny and Harvey. Others received slightly lighter prison terms. Civil lawsuits against Ryder and Henderson followed the criminal trial. The company lost most of its customers and went into receivership. Henderson, after paying a substantial sum, filed for bankruptcy. The fallout from Henderson's scheme to betray me was far-reaching. Katie was dead, and he and his cohorts were bankrupt and imprisoned. The company vanished, leaving hundreds unemployed. As for me, life moved forward. I sold the house and bought a 2-bedroom apartment. Closing the door on the house for the last time was bittersweet. However, I had my whole life ahead of me. My advisor suggested taking some time off, maybe a cruise to meet someone new. So I booked a round-the-world cruise and headed to the airport, excited for the adventures that lay ahead.
Story 5.
Grayson Whitmore stood in front of his open suitcase, methodically folding a crisp white shirt. His movements were precise, each crease aligned perfectly, a habit ingrained from his years in the Air Force. The bedroom was quiet, save for the soft rustle of fabric and the faint hum of the air conditioning. He glanced at his watch. 6:30 a.m., right on schedule. As he placed the shirt in his suitcase, Grayson's mind wandered to the presentation waiting for him in Seattle. Months of work, countless late nights, and now it all came down to this. If successful, it could mean a major promotion at the aviation company where he'd built his career as an aerospace engineer. A promotion meant more responsibility, more challenges. The thought made him smile slightly. Grayson thrived on pushing his limits, on solving complex problems. It's what made him excel as a pilot, and now as an engineer. He zipped up the suitcase and set it by the door. Everything was in order, just as he liked it. Grayson took a deep breath, savoring the calm before a big day. As he made his way downstairs, the aroma of fresh coffee filled the air. In the kitchen, he found Eliza, his wife of 10 years, pouring herself a cup. She was already dressed in her workout clothes, her blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. "Morning," Grayson said, reaching for a travel mug. Eliza barely looked up from her phone. Grayson paused, studying her face. There was something off about her expression, a tightness around her eyes, a slight downturn of her lips. He'd noticed it more and more lately, but couldn't quite put his finger on why. "Everything okay?" he asked, pouring his coffee. Eliza finally glanced up, her blue eyes meeting his for a brief moment before flicking back to her phone. "Just tired. Early client session." Grayson nodded, though a nagging feeling persisted in the back of his mind. He pushed it aside, focusing instead on the day ahead. "I should be back from Seattle by Friday. The presentation's tomorrow, but I want to stick around for any follow-up meetings." "Sounds good," Eliza replied, her tone flat. She set down her mug and grabbed her gym bag. "I gotta run. Good luck with the presentation." As she brushed past him, Grayson caught her arm gently. "Hey," he said softly, leaning in to kiss her cheek. "I'll miss you." For a split second, he thought he saw something flicker in Eliza's eyes. Guilt? Irritation? But then it was gone, replaced by a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You too," she said, already halfway out the door. "Bye." The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving Grayson alone in the suddenly too quiet kitchen. He stood there for a moment, coffee forgotten in his hand, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling in his gut. Something was wrong. He was sure of it now. But what? He sighed, glancing at his watch again. No time to dwell on it now. He had a plane to catch. The drive to the airport was uneventful, traffic mercifully light for a weekday morning. Grayson's mind drifted between his upcoming presentation and the strange interaction with Eliza. Had he done something to upset her? Said something wrong? He replayed their recent conversations in his head, searching for clues. Sure, things hadn't been perfect lately. Their lives had fallen into a routine comfortable, but perhaps lacking the excitement of their early years together. But that was normal, wasn't it? Part of settling into married life? Grayson frowned, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. Maybe he'd been too focused on work lately, too caught up in his own ambitions. He made a mental note to plan something special for Eliza when he got back. A weekend getaway, perhaps? Something to reconnect. At the airport, Grayson moved efficiently through security, his military training evident in his purposeful stride and alert gaze. He arrived at the gate with plenty of time to spare, settling into a seat with a clear view of the tarmac. He pulled out his laptop, intent on reviewing his presentation one last time. But as he stared at the screen, the words blurred together. His mind kept circling back to Eliza, to the coldness in her eyes this morning. A commotion at the gate drew his attention. The gate agent was speaking into a microphone, her voice tense. "Ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you that Flight 237 to Seattle has been canceled due to severe weather conditions." Grayson's heart sank as groans and angry mutters erupted around him. He listened as the agent explained the situation. An unexpected storm had developed, grounding all flights for at least the next 24 hours. For a moment, Grayson sat there, frustration building in his chest. All his careful planning, the importance of this presentation, but then his military training kicked in. Adapt and overcome. He'd faced worse challenges than this. He pulled out his phone, quickly dialing his boss. "Sir, it's Whitmore. My flight's been canceled. Yes, I understand the importance. No, I can make it work. I'll drive to Seattle if I have to. I'll be there, don't worry." After a few more calls to rearrange his schedule, Grayson found himself walking back to the parking garage, suitcase in tow. The drive to Seattle would take nearly 8 hours, but he'd make it work. He always did. As he settled into his car, a new thought struck him. He'd be home tonight, unexpectedly. Maybe this was an opportunity. He could surprise Eliza, maybe take her out to dinner. Start working on whatever was causing the rift between them. With renewed determination, Grayson started the engine and pulled out of the parking garage. The highway stretched out before him, a long journey ahead. But his mind was already back home, planning his surprise return. The sun was setting by the time Grayson turned onto his street, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns of their upscale neighborhood. He felt a mix of exhaustion and anticipation as his house came into view. 8 hours of driving had left him drained, but the thought of seeing Eliza, of maybe finally getting to the bottom of what was bothering her, gave him a second wind. As he pulled into the driveway, something caught his eye. Cars. A lot of cars parked along the street in front of their house. His brow furrowed in confusion. Eliza hadn't mentioned having people over. The sound of music and laughter drifted through the air as Grayson stepped out of his car. It was faint, but unmistakable. A party? On a weeknight? He approached the front door, his steps slow and deliberate. The unsettling feeling from this morning returned, amplified tenfold. Something was very, very wrong. Grayson hesitated for a moment, his hand on the doorknob. Part of him wanted to turn around, to pretend he hadn't seen anything. But that wasn't who he was. He'd faced enemy fire, navigated crisis situations in the air. Whatever was waiting for him behind this door, he'd face it head on. He turned the knob and pushed the door open. The noise hit him first, pulsing music, raucous laughter, the clink of glasses. Then the smell, a mixture of alcohol, sweat, and something else, something musky and primal. Grayson stepped into the foyer, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. People, dozens of them, filled his living room. But they weren't just partying. They were... His breath caught in his throat as the full scene came into focus. Naked bodies intertwined on every surface. Men and women in various states of undress, engaged in acts that made even Grayson, with all his worldly experience, feel a flush of shock. And there, in the center of it all, was Eliza. She was on the couch, straddling a man Grayson had never seen before. Her head was thrown back in ecstasy, her blonde hair wild and disheveled. The man's hands gripped her hips, guiding her movements. For a moment, Grayson stood frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, reality warping around him. This couldn't be real. It had to be a nightmare. But it wasn't. This was happening. This was real. A cold, terrible rage began to build in Grayson's chest, spreading through his veins like ice. When he spoke, his voice was low and deadly calm. "What the fuck is this?" The room fell silent, all eyes turning to him. Eliza's head snapped around, her eyes wide with shock. But to Grayson's disbelief, she didn't look ashamed. She didn't even get off the man beneath her. Instead, she smiled. A cruel, mocking smile that Grayson had never seen on her face before. "You're not invited, honey." The man beneath Eliza, handsome with the polished look of old money, smirked up at Grayson. "Look, the cuckold joined us." Grayson's fists clenched at his sides, every muscle in his body coiled tight. He wanted nothing more than to lash out, to unleash the fury building inside him. But he held himself in check, his military discipline kicking in even now. Instead, he let his gaze sweep the room, taking in every face, every detail. His eyes landed on the security camera in the corner, its red light blinking steadily. A cold smile tugged at his lips. "This is going public," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. Eliza's smug expression faltered for a moment. She climbed off her lover, reaching for a robe draped over a nearby chair. "You're not going to do anything, Grayson," she said, but there was a note of uncertainty in her voice now. "This is between us. You can't handle a real woman, so I had to find a man who could." A chorus of drunken laughter followed her words, but Grayson noticed a few nervous glances exchanged around the room. The man Eliza had been with, clearly someone important, judging by the way others deferred to him, was no longer smiling. Grayson met Eliza's eyes, holding her gaze for a long moment. He saw many things in those blue eyes he'd once loved: defiance, anger, a hint of fear, but not a shred of remorse. Without another word, Grayson turned and walked out of the room. He climbed the stairs to their bedroom. He thought bitterly and closed the door behind him. Only then did he allow himself to react, his hands shaking as he sank onto the edge of the bed. The image of Eliza with that other man burned in his mind, fueling a rage unlike anything he'd ever felt before. But beneath the anger was a deep, aching pain. 10 years of marriage, of building a life together. And this was how it ended? Grayson took a deep breath, forcing himself to think clearly. He was a strategist, a problem solver. He'd faced crises before, in the air and on the ground. This was just another problem to solve. He pulled out his phone, his fingers steady as he dialed a number. It rang twice before a woman's voice answered. "Tessa Richards' office. This is Grayson Whitmore. I need to speak with Ms. Richards immediately. It's urgent." There was a pause, then, "One moment, please." As he waited, Grayson's gaze fell on a framed photo on the nightstand. Him and Eliza on their wedding day, both smiling broadly at the camera. He reached out and slammed the frame face down. "Mr. Whitmore?" A new voice, sharp and professional. "This is Tessa Richards. How can I help you?" Grayson's voice was cold and determined as he spoke. "Ms. Richards, I need the best divorce attorney in the state, and I need to know how to make someone pay for destroying my life." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. When Tessa spoke again, there was a note of respect in her voice. "I believe I can help you with both those things, Mr. Whitmore. Why don't you start at the beginning?" As Grayson began to speak, laying out the betrayal he'd just witnessed, a plan began to form in his mind. Eliza thought she'd won. She thought she'd humiliated him, broken him. She had no idea what was coming. Grayson sat in Tessa Richards' office, his posture rigid, eyes fixed on the security camera footage playing on her computer screen. The images were grainy, but clear enough. Eliza and her lover, Drew Harper, engaged in activities that made Grayson's jaw clench. Tessa paused the video, turning to face Grayson. "This is damning evidence, Mr. Whitmore. But we need more if we want to ensure Eliza doesn't walk away with half your assets." Grayson nodded, his voice cold. "What do you suggest?" "We need to dig deeper," Tessa replied, leaning forward. "These parties, they're not just about sex, are they? There's money changing hands, deals being made. We need to prove that. How do we do that?" Tessa smiled, a predatory gleam in her eye. "I know just the person. Jackson Morrow, top-notch private investigator. He can uncover dirt that would make a saint look guilty." Grayson considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Do it, whatever it takes." As Tessa picked up her phone to make the call, Grayson stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city. His mind raced with plans, strategies, and ways to make Eliza pay for her betrayal. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Tessa's assistant poked her head in. Mr. Whitmore? There's an Eliza Whitmore here to see you. She's quite insistent. Grayson turned, exchanging a look with Tessa. She raised an eyebrow. Your call, Mr. Whitmore. He took a deep breath, shaking his shoulders. Send her in. Moments later, Eliza burst into the office, her face flushed with anger. What the hell do you think you're doing, Grayson? Grayson met her gaze coolly. I could ask you the same thing, Eliza. Eliza's eyes darted to Tessa, then back to Grayson. You're seriously going through with this? A divorce? Over one little indiscretion? Grayson laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. One little indiscretion? Is that what you call hosting swinger parties in our home? Sleeping with that smug bastard Drew Harper. Eliza flinched at Drew's name, but quickly recovered. It wasn't like that, Grayson. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. Grayson cut her off. I understand that you've been lying to me, betraying me, making a fool of me for God knows how long. Grayson, please. Eliza's voice softened, taking on a pleading tone. She stepped closer, reaching out to touch his arm. We can work this out. I'll end things with Drew, I promise. We can go to counseling, start over. Grayson jerked away from her touch as if it burned. There's nothing to work out, Eliza. You're going to lose everything. Eliza's face hardened, her eyes flashing with anger. You think you can threaten me? I know things about you too, Grayson. Things that could ruin your precious career. Grayson smiled, a cold, dangerous smile that made Eliza take a step back. Go ahead, try it. But remember, I have video evidence of your little parties. How do you think your Instagram followers would react to seeing their fitness idol snorting coke off a stranger's chest? The color drained from Eliza's face. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Grayson replied, his voice icy. Now get out. Any further communication goes through my lawyer. Eliza opened her mouth as if to argue, then thought better of it. She turned on her heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Tessa let out a low whistle. Well, that was intense. Grayson sank back into his chair, suddenly feeling drained. She's not going to go down without a fight. Good thing you've got me in your corner then, Tessa replied with a grim smile. Now let's talk strategy. Over the next few weeks, Grayson threw himself into building his case against Eliza. He met regularly with Tessa and Jackson, poring over financial records, text messages, anything that could give them an edge. One evening, as they sat in Tessa's office reviewing their latest findings, Jackson dropped a bombshell. You're not going to believe this, he said, sliding a file across the desk to Grayson. Your wife's lover, Drew Harper? He's been using her to gain access to high-profile investors. Grayson's eyebrows shot up as he scanned the documents. What do you mean? Jackson leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of the chase. Those parties weren't just for fun. Drew was using them to network, to make deals behind the scenes. And get this, he's been siphoning money from Eliza's accounts. She has no idea. Grayson looked up, a mix of emotions playing across his face. Part of him felt a twisted satisfaction at the thought of Eliza being used, just as she had used him. But another part he quickly squashed felt a pang of concern for her. Can we prove it? He asked, his voice hard. Tessa nodded, a triumphant smile on her face. Oh, we can prove it. And more. Jackson here has uncovered evidence of insider trading, tax evasion. Drew Harper is in deep, and he's dragged Eliza right down with him. Grayson sat back, processing this information. So what's our next move? We go nuclear, Tessa replied. We file for divorce, freeze your joint accounts, and expose Drew's illegal activities to the authorities. Eliza will be left with nothing, no money, no lover, no reputation. Grayson nodded slowly, a cold determination settling over him. Do it. The next morning, Grayson stood outside Eliza's gym, divorce papers in hand. He watched through the window as she led her class, all smiles and encouragement. The sight of her, acting as if nothing had changed, as if she hadn't destroyed their life together, made his blood boil. As the class ended and people began to file out, Grayson stepped inside. Eliza's back was to him as she wiped down equipment, but he saw her stiffen as one of her friends whispered in her ear, nodding in his direction. Eliza turned slowly, her face a mask of forced calm. Grayson, what are you doing here? He held up the envelope. Delivering these. Eliza's eyes widened as she realized what they were. She glanced around nervously at the lingering class members, then grabbed Grayson's arm and pulled him into a corner. Here? Now? She hissed. You couldn't have done this privately? Grayson's lip curled in disgust. Funny how you suddenly care about privacy. Didn't seem to bother you when you were parading your affair in front of our entire social circle. Eliza flinched, then rallied. Fine. You want to do this here? Let's do it. She snatched the envelope from his hand, tearing it open. As she scanned the contents, her face paled. What is this? You're freezing our accounts? You can't do that. I can, and I have, Grayson replied coldly. You'll find your credit cards have also been canceled. Oh, and you might want to call your boyfriend. He's about to have a very bad day. Eliza's head snapped up, fear replacing anger in her eyes. What have you done? Grayson leaned in close, his voice low and menacing. I've done exactly what you deserve, Eliza. I've taken everything from you, just like you took everything from me. He turned to leave, but Eliza grabbed his arm. Grayson, wait. Please. We can talk about this. I'll do anything. Grayson shook off her grip. It's too late for that. Goodbye, Eliza. As he walked out of the gym, he heard Eliza's voice, shrill with panic, calling after him. But he didn't look back. He had made his move. Now it was time to watch it all fall apart. Over the next few days, Grayson watched from afar as Eliza's world crumbled. The news of Drew's arrest for fraud and embezzlement hit the local papers, dragging Eliza's name through the mud along with it. Her Instagram followers deserted her in droves as rumors of her involvement in illegal activity spread. Grayson sat in his hotel room, scrolling through the fallout on his phone, when a knock at the door startled him. He opened it to find Tessa standing there, a grim expression on her face. We have a problem, she said without preamble, stepping into the room. Eliza's fighting back. She's hired her own lawyer, a shark named Victor Reeves. He's demanding a meeting. Grayson's jaw clenched. What does she think she can accomplish? Tessa shook her head. I don't know, but we can't ignore it. We need to meet with them, hear what they have to say. Grayson nodded reluctantly. Set it up. The meeting was set for the following afternoon at Tessa's office. Grayson arrived early, his stomach churning with a mix of anger and apprehension. He hadn't seen Eliza since that day at the gym, and he wasn't sure how he would react to being in the same room with her again. When Eliza walked in, Grayson barely recognized her. Gone was the polished, confident woman he had known. In her place was someone who looked broken. Her hair was lank, her eyes red-rimmed. Her designer clothes were replaced by a simple blouse and jeans. But as soon as she saw Grayson, a flash of the old Eliza emerged. She straightened her spine, lifting her chin defiantly. Grayson, she said, her voice cold. Eliza, he replied, equally frosty. Victor Reeves, a sleek, silver-haired man in an expensive suit, stepped forward. Now that we're all here, let's get down to business, shall we? My client is willing to negotiate a fair settlement. Tessa cut him off with a sharp laugh. Fair? Your client destroyed my client's marriage, participated in illegal activities, and now wants to talk about fairness. Victor's eyes narrowed. Careful, Ms. Richards. My client has information that could be very damaging to Mr. Whitmore if it were to come to light. Grayson leaned forward, his voice dangerously calm. Is that a threat, Mr. Reeves? Before Victor could respond, Eliza spoke up. Grayson, please. I know I hurt you, but this vendetta, it's destroying both of us. Can't we just end this? For a moment, Grayson almost wavered. The sight of Eliza looking so defeated, so unlike the woman he had loved, made something twist in his chest. But then he remembered the image of her with Drew, the cruel smile on her face when she mocked him in front of everyone. His resolve hardened. No, Eliza, we can't just end this. You made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences. Eliza's face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. Grayson, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I messed up, but please, I have nothing left. The gym fired me. All our friends have abandoned me. Drew, she choked on the name. Drew used me, just like you said. I didn't know about the illegal stuff. I swear. Grayson stood, unable to bear the sight of her tears any longer. "Save it, Eliza. Your apologies mean nothing to me now." He turned to Tessa. "We're done here. No negotiations, no settlement. She gets nothing." As he walked out of the office, he heard Eliza call after him, her voice breaking. "Grayson, please. I love you." But Grayson didn't turn back. He kept walking, each step taking him further away from the life he had known, from the woman he had loved. As he stepped out into the sunlight, Grayson took a deep breath. For the first time since that terrible night, he felt a sense of peace. It wasn't over yet. There would be more battles to fight, more pain to endure. But he had survived the worst of it. He had faced his betrayer and come out stronger. Whatever came next, Grayson knew he could handle it. He had weathered this storm, and he would weather whatever else life threw at him. Alone, perhaps, but unbroken, Grayson stood in his office, gazing out the window at the city below. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of legal battles and emotional turmoil, but finally, it was coming to an end. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called, turning to face his visitor. Tessa strode in, a triumphant smile on her face. "It's done," she announced, dropping a thick folder on his desk. "The judge signed off on everything. Eliza gets nothing." Grayson nodded, a weight lifting from his shoulders. "And Drew?" "Singing like a canary to save his own skin," Tessa replied, her eyes gleaming. "He's implicated Eliza in everything. She's facing charges of her own now." Grayson sank into his chair, processing this information. "So it's really over?" Tessa leaned against the desk, her expression softening slightly. "You did it, Grayson. You won." He looked up at her, his eyes hard. "This wasn't about winning, Tessa. It was about justice." "Of course," she nodded, straightening up. "Well, my work here is done. Unless there's anything else you need?" Grayson shook his head. "No, that's all. Thank you, Tessa, for everything." After she left, Grayson sat in silence for a long moment. Then, with a determined set to his jaw, he picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Jackson? It's Grayson. I need you to do one last thing for me." A week later, Grayson found himself standing outside a small, rundown apartment building on the outskirts of town. This was where Eliza was living now, according to Jackson's intel. He hesitated for a moment, questioning whether he really needed to do this. But the memory of Eliza's betrayal steeled his resolve. He needed to see it for himself, to know that justice had truly been served. Grayson climbed the stairs to the third floor, the smell of stale cigarettes and cheap takeout assaulting his senses. He found the door he was looking for and knocked firmly. After a long pause, the door cracked open. Eliza peered out, her eyes widening in shock when she saw him. "Grayson, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk," he said simply. Eliza hesitated, then opened the door wider, revealing a small, cluttered studio apartment. She was wearing sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. The polished, glamorous woman he had known was gone. "Come in, I guess," she muttered, stepping aside. Grayson entered, his eyes sweeping the room. Empty takeout containers littered the coffee table, and a half-empty bottle of cheap wine sat on the kitchen counter. "So," Eliza said, crossing her arms defensively, "come to gloat?" Grayson turned to face her, his expression impassive. "No, Eliza. I came to understand." She laughed bitterly. "Understand what?" "How you destroyed my life." "I didn't destroy your life," Grayson replied calmly. "You did that all on your own." Eliza's face crumpled, anger and pain warring in her eyes. "Why are you really here, Grayson? To remind me of how far I've fallen? To rub it in that you've taken everything from me?" Grayson shook his head. "I'm here because I needed to see it for myself, to know that it's really over." "Well, congratulations," Eliza spat, gesturing around the dingy apartment. "You've won. Are you happy now?" "Happy," Grayson echoed, a hint of genuine confusion in his voice. "No, Eliza, I'm not happy, but I am at peace." Eliza sank onto the worn couch, suddenly looking very small and very tired. "I never meant for any of this to happen, you know," she said quietly. Grayson raised an eyebrow. "Which part? The affairs? The illegal activities?" Or just getting caught? All of it, Eliza exclaimed, a hint of her old fire returning. I was bored, Grayson. Our life together was so predictable. I wanted excitement, adventure. Drew offered that. And the price of that excitement? Grayson asked coldly. Our marriage, your reputation, your freedom? Eliza looked away, unable to meet his gaze. I didn't know about the illegal stuff at first. By the time I figured it out, I was in too deep. You could have come to me, Grayson said, a hint of the old pain creeping into his voice. We could have faced it together. Eliza laughed humorlessly. Could we? You were always so focused on your work, on your goals. When was the last time you really saw me, Grayson? For a moment, doubt flickered across Grayson's face. Had he been so blind? But then he remembered the cruel smile on Eliza's face that night, the mocking words she had thrown at him. Don't, he said, his voice hard. Don't try to make this my fault. You made your choices, Eliza. Now you have to live with them. Eliza nodded slowly, defeat settling over her like a shroud. I know. I never thought it would end like this. Grayson moved towards the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. Neither did I, he said quietly. As he stepped out into the hallway, Eliza called after him. Grayson, for what it's worth, I am sorry. For everything. Grayson turned back, meeting her gaze one last time. Goodbye, Eliza, he said simply, and closed the door behind him. The next morning, Grayson sat in his new office, staring at the promotion letter on his desk. Head of the aerospace division, it was everything he had worked for. But somehow, the victory felt hollow. A knock at the door interrupted his musings. Come in, he called. To his surprise, it was Courtney Ellis, one of Eliza's former friends. She looked nervous as she stepped into the office. Mr. Whitmore, she began hesitantly. I wanted to talk to you about Eliza. Grayson's expression hardened. What about her? Courtney took a deep breath. She came to me yesterday, asking for help. She's not doing well, Grayson. And why are you telling me this? Grayson asked coldly. Courtney fidgeted with her purse strap. Because I've been working with you and Jackson all along. Feeding you information. I thought you should know. Grayson leaned back in his chair, studying Courtney carefully. Why the change of heart? I didn't realize how far it would go, Courtney admitted. I was angry at Eliza for lying to all of us, for the way she treated you. But seeing her now, it's just sad. Grayson was silent for a long moment. Then, thank you for telling me, Courtney. But Eliza made her bed. Now she has to lie in it. Courtney nodded sadly. I understand. I thought you should know. After she left, Grayson sat lost in thought. He had achieved everything he set out to do. Eliza had been punished, Drew was facing justice, and he had come out on top. So why did he feel so empty? Weeks passed. Grayson threw himself into his new role at work, staying late at the office and taking on more projects than ever. But no matter how busy he kept himself, he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was missing. One evening, as he was leaving the office, he ran into his colleague, Sarah. She looked at him with concern. Grayson, are you okay? You've been working yourself to the bone lately. Grayson forced a smile. I'm fine, Sarah. Just busy with the new responsibilities. Sarah wasn't convinced. You know, there's more to life than work. When was the last time you did something for yourself? Her words echoed in Grayson's mind long after she had gone. That night, as he sat alone in his new apartment, he finally allowed himself to confront the truth he had been avoiding. He had won. He had achieved his revenge. But at what cost? The next morning, Grayson made a decision. He picked up his phone and dialed a familiar number. Tessa, it's Grayson. I need your help with something. A few days later, Grayson found himself standing outside Eliza's apartment building again. This time, however, he wasn't alone. Tessa stood beside him, a folder tucked under her arm. Are you sure about this? She asked, studying his face carefully. Grayson nodded, his jaw set with determination. I'm sure. They climbed the stairs together, and Grayson knocked on Eliza's door. When she opened it, her eyes widened in shock at the sight of them both. Grayson? What's going on? Can we come in, Eliza? Grayson asked, his voice neutral. We have something to discuss. Eliza hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment looked much the same as it had during Grayson's last visit. But Eliza herself looked even more worn down. "What is this about?" she asked warily, eyeing Tessa. Grayson took a deep breath. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Eliza, about everything that's happened, and I've come to a decision." Eliza tensed, fear flashing in her eyes. "What kind of decision?" Tessa stepped forward, opening the folder she carried. "Mr. Whitmore has instructed me to draw up these papers. It's a settlement agreement." Eliza's brow furrowed in confusion. "Settlement? But the divorce is final. You won, remember?" "This isn't about winning anymore," Grayson said quietly. "It's about moving on." He gestured for Tessa to explain. She laid out the papers on the coffee table. "This agreement will provide you with a modest monthly stipend, enough to get back on your feet, find a decent place to live, maybe start over somewhere new if you want." Eliza stared at the papers, then at Grayson, disbelief written across her face. "I don't understand. Why would you do this?" Grayson met her gaze steadily. "Because holding on to this anger, this need for revenge, it's poisoning me, Eliza, and I'm ready to let it go." Tears welled up in Eliza's eyes. "Grayson, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Grayson replied. "Just take this chance. Make something of it." Eliza nodded, wiping at her eyes. "I will. I promise." As Tessa went over the details of the agreement with Eliza, Grayson stepped out onto the small balcony. He looked out over the city, feeling a weight lifting from his shoulders. He would never forgive Eliza for what she had done. The trust they had shared was irreparably broken. But in letting go of his need for revenge, Grayson felt like he could finally start to heal. When it was time to leave, Eliza walked them to the door. "Thank you, Grayson," she said softly. "I know I don't deserve this." Grayson nodded, his expression solemn. "No, you don't. But this isn't about what you deserve. It's about who I want to be." As they walked away, Tessa glanced at Grayson. "Are you okay?" Grayson took a deep breath, then smiled a real smile for the first time in months. "Yeah," he said. "I think I am." Epilogue. 6 months later, Grayson stood in his office, looking out over the city. The view from the top floor of the aerospace company's headquarters was breathtaking, a fitting symbol of how far he had come. A knock at the door drew his attention. "Come in," he called. His assistant, Jenny, stepped inside. "Mr. Whitmore? Your 2 o'clock is here." Grayson nodded, straightening his tie. "Send them in, please." As Jenny left, Grayson took a moment to center himself. This meeting could change everything. A potential merger that would catapult his division to the forefront of the industry. The door opened again, and Grayson turned to greet his visitors. As he shook hands and made introductions, he felt a sense of calm confidence. He had weathered the storm of betrayal and come out stronger on the other side. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Grayson knew he could face them. He had rebuilt his life on his own terms, and nothing could shake the foundation he had created. As the meeting began, Grayson leaned forward, fully engaged and ready to shape his future. The past was behind him, and the possibilities ahead were endless.